Hello and welcome to rounds 3 and 4 of TCR UK, which brings us this time to the beautiful rolling countryside of Fife and Knockhill. Now, Dan Lloyd leads the championship after that pair of wins in the opening rounds of TCR UK held at Silverstone. And it's fair to say that opening race weekend wasn't exactly short of drama and excitement. And here's a quick recap of what happened.
The revs start to rise, the lights go out. Now we are away and racing in TCR UK. Good start made by Dan Lloyd. Darrell Wilson a bit sluggish away from midfield, but it is Lloyd that will lead down towards the Copse corner for the first time. Moffitt into second. Kent defending, Fuller dives to the inside. What a move from Howard Fuller. Can he stop the car on the brakes? Yes, he can. You would not believe this is Howard Fuller's first competitive race in 3 years, and that was the move of a veteran. Kent and Darrell Wilson now side by side for 7, and Derek Palmer in the second of the Alfa Romeos. Oh, Darrell Wilson! Contact with Lewis Kent, and Darrell Wilson is off into the gravel trap. What a shame. Carl Swift, I noticed, though, has dropped down the order, and this is why. Wow, that was close. Just lost it under braking into Brooklands and was lucky not to collect Lewis Kent on his way around. Dan Lloyd is going to come through to make history. Daniel Lloyd is the winner of the first ever race in the TCR UK Championship. He is elated with that. We've had a really successful start to the season in race 1. What will race 2 bring? Let's find out. The lights go out, away we go, and Andreas Bachmann seems to have made the best start from the front of the grid. He's going to try and shoot the gap up the middle of the 2 Cupras in front of him. He's cleared Kangas, he's cleared lines, so Andreas Bachmann leads. And Moffitt and Lloyd go either side of Stuart Lyons. They split him down the middle, and Lloyd is on an absolute tear. He's third. Dan Lloyd is third. He eases Ollie Taylor out wide. Moffitt comes through as well. Up the inside line. Aggressive stuff from Dan Lloyd and Aiden Moffitt, but they need to get to the front quickly. Now, Dan Lloyd is second. Dan Lloyd has got past Ollie Kangas out of our sight, but he's into second place, and Aiden Moffitt is trying to do the same thing on the inside of the finished driver. They almost lead on each other through Copse corner. This is not what Moffitt needs, because now Ollie Taylor joins in as well. 3 abreast down towards Beckett's. Moffitt's gone through, Taylor's gone through. Now those two need to sort it out between themselves. Kangas tries to get back up the inside as well. Moffitt goes through. Taylor will keep Kangas at bay, and they settle themselves down for the time being. These cars identical in straight line performance, but Lloyd has the inside line, and Daniel Lloyd is about to move through, potentially into the race lead again. Down towards Copse corner he goes. Lloyd on the inside, Bachmann on the outside, and Daniel Lloyd has done it from 9th to 1st in 5 laps. Oh, Aiden Moffitt slows down. Aiden Moffitt, I don't believe it, with less than 2 minutes to go. Second place has gone by the wayside. Dan Lloyd has been the class of the field this weekend. The speed at which he was able to work his way through the field was remarkable. And with Aiden Moffitt's troubles in this race, it will be a maximum points haul at Silverstone for Daniel Lloyd. That is just how he wanted to start his season in 2018.
You may already know of Knockhill's challenging undulating features and the fact it boasts some pretty amazing views. But what you may not know is that it is also a very versatile racetrack, because in addition to the traditional clockwise layout, this circuit is licensed to run anti-clockwise. And here at TCR, we like to do things slightly differently. So that's what we're going to be doing here today. Now, a local driver with some handy knowledge is Finley Crocker, so we thought we'd catch up with him and get him to guide us around a lap.
Around Duffus, and we're about to start a lap of Knockhill Circuit in the reverse direction for the TCR weekend. Heading down the start finish straight, we're up to 5th gear, looking for the access road on the right, hitting the brakes, down 4 gears to 1st, tight around the hairpin, and winding the lock off, aiming for the end of the exit curb, and accelerating back up through the gears. Car coming up on our right here, so we've got to stay left and then get the car as straight as we can, braking on the flat part of the curb, down a gear, turning it in, trying to avoid the sausage curb, and let the car run right out on the exit curb, down at the chicane, down another gear, try not to turn in too early, over the exit, over the chicane, and through Butchers, keeping the speed going, and then turning in just before the sausage curb, up to 3rd gear, back up the hill, and then carry all the speed. Got to keep the speed going here. Use the pit entrance, and then accelerate back up through the gears, on to start, finish straight, and that completes a lap of the circuit.
Well, it promises to be another thrilling day for Britain's newest touring car championship, and coming up very shortly, the first of the day's 2 races. But before all of that, let's have a quick recap on what happened in yesterday's qualifying to see who starts on pole. Well, qualifying has started. Josh Price just went past me, actually. He's left the pits. He's now out on track, which is great for him when you consider he blew his engine up in practice earlier on today. So they've put a new engine. He's out on track and hopefully going to put together some decent times. We've also heard news from Lewis Kent. They did a software upgrade overnight, believe it or not, from Germany using Wi-Fi. That's technology for you. They have got the car up to speed and it's looking pretty good out there already. Don't forget to keep your eyes on the backmans and, of course, Dan Lloyd. Well, the cars have already done a couple of laps now, and so they are moving the tyres left to right and front to back, just so they can bed them in, get some heat in those tyres. Well, Josh Price, we know he's got a brand new engine fitted to his car after it blew up during the first practice. It hasn't had any time really to bed in or for them to run the car, so they're just checking things over. I imagine this is just a precautionary check. Thumbs up from the team. So I imagine Josh will go back out, and yeah, it looks like he is straight away back on track. Well, a hive of activity in the pits here, very early stages. All the cars have gone out, done a couple of laps just to get some heat into the tyres, and now they've moved the tyres from the front to the back. Well, Josh Price with his brand new engine is currently sitting second fastest, around about 6/10 off of Dan Lloyd. Brand new engine and not much time in this car. He's doing very, very well, and maybe, just maybe, he is a dark horse that could get pole. Around 17 minutes to go, and if we cast our minds back to Silverstone, where the drivers are really having to contend with some changeable weather conditions, if we look up here, it's glorious. A few clouds, but it's really, really bright, really sunny, and the track conditions are absolutely perfect. Currently sitting just 1/100th of a second off of pole position. Aiden Moffitt has come in for a tyre change, looking very quick out there, being held by his team. 1/1000th of a second. Can he do it? Derek Palmer still trying to get some performance out of that car. 10th fastest at the minute and some 1.7 seconds off of pole position. Well, in comes Aiden Moffitt. We've got 6.5 minutes to go. Aiden Moffitt now in the pits. He is currently 2/10 off of pole position. Aiden, we see you getting out of the car, 5 minutes to go qualifying. Is that it for you for today?
Yeah, that's, I think we're not getting more out of the car. I've already having to go past the limit of the car, to be honest. I mean, just constantly fighting. It's either up on 2 wheels or the back end out, and just really having to be extremely aggressive and just really drive the car to get a lap time out of it.
1 minute, 25 seconds to go. Dan Lloyd has come back into the pits, and you've got to think this is probably the end of his qualifying session. He currently sits on pole. And yes, Dan Lloyd is now getting out of the car. He looks like he's pretty happy with his day's work. And I imagine he thinks he's got the job done. Well, Dan, you got out of the car with about a minute to go, something like that. Did you think the job was done early?
A little bit. Well, the first run I did was a decent time, not the best I've done this weekend. And I had a bit of a gap. And as time went on, we came in and Aiden got closer and closer. I think it was down to 200ths at one point. So I thought it's a bit too close this, I needed to pull something out of the bag. So yeah, I went back out and, like, being big-headed, it was a mega lap. I knew I wasn't going to go any better than that as well, so really, really pleased.
Well, the grid is very, very busy here at Knockhill as we have the Piper playing. We also have Aiden Moffitt standing over her shoulder, and he really is a huge part of the story that has happened here at Knockhill. Aiden is just wandering off. Let's grab him before he disappears off. Aiden, you're on pole. Now, that is a turn up for the books. We'll go into detail in just a bit about why, but you're on pole and Dan Lloyd is way back.
Yeah, it's, no, I mean, that's what it is. The rules are the rules, aren't they? Obviously, there was no intention, but these things happen sometimes. And yeah, with what happened, there's no choice but to stick to the rule book, which promoted us to pole. It's yeah, it's not the way you want to get a pole position. You'd rather fight it out fair, but it's a pole nonetheless at our home track, and the first for ourselves and the first I believe for the Alphas. So yeah, it's a good feeling.
And actually, looking back here, you talk about it being your home track. Home track, a lot of support here as well. So what are the chances we're going to see you on that top step at the end of this race? You've got Ollie behind, you've got Andres, both very, very quick.
Yeah, both great drivers. But yeah, I'll give them all, and hopefully it's enough.
Lovely, well, we'll keep an eye on it. Thank you very much there, Aiden Moffitt. Now we'll come to the story about Aiden being on pole. Originally it was going to be Dan Lloyd, but what's happened during qualifying, you saw the little footage there from qualifying, 4 of those drivers had their times taken away because of being underweight. Now, that went to the stewards, it went to the clerk of the course, and it was upheld, which means now that Aiden Moffitt starts on pole position. We'll come to where Dan is and the other drivers in just a second, but before we do, let's grab Ollie Taylor. Ollie, if we can jump in, I know you're talking to your team there, but you got bumped up a place as well, but you're here second on the grid. You've got a very fast car ahead of you. We're going to see you competing for that #1 spot.
Oh yeah, definitely. We've got to give it. We're always here to compete for #1. Yeah, slightly strange circumstances, slightly tricky conditions, but I'm sure it'll be fantastic whatever way it goes.
And when we look at practice and qualifying yesterday, it was very, very dry. You might be able to see here, the track has got a bit of a dry line coming, but it is quite greasy out there. You've gone for slicks as well. Seems like all the cars have gone for slicks.
Yeah, out on the circuit, you've got to go for slicks. It's dry all the way around, but it's only one car's width. So it's going to be interesting for those that need to go offline. So a good start's going to be crucial, but unfortunately we're starting on the wet side of the track. So yeah. Let's see what happens.
We'll be watching with eagle eyes. Thanks very much there to Ollie Taylor. If we go a little bit further down here, we see Andreas Beckman. Now, if you look at the top 3 cars here on the grid, we've got the Alfa, we've got the Honda, and we've got the Golf. So it's 3 different makes on the start of the grid. If we go a little bit further back, as Aiden was talking about this lineup on the grid, so if we go back to that story then, 4 cars underweight. Now, the way it means, or what it means to the lineup, is we have the first 7 cars numbered 1 to 7 in the grid position. Then we have a space, 2-car space. And that is because when the lights go out, the cars at the back here, we're waiting for the national flag to be waved. It'll happen about 10 seconds, just under 10 seconds after that start light goes. So they'll be held for a few seconds before they shoot off. They're quite a long way back, as you can see. There's Dan Lloyd, there's Lewis Kent, there is Jessica Beckman, and right at the back there, Derek Palmer. They are quite a long way back, and they've got to gain a long way on here. We've got Sean Walkinshaw. He was new in this series as well. First time he's been in a front-wheel drive touring car, so we're going to see how he performs. Dan Lloyd currently leading the championship. He has got a long way to go. He's in the car, as are all the other drivers now. They're in the car. They are getting ready. We're hearing that, so we're about to clear on the grid too. So if we wander back up this way, we can just see what they're trying to put up with. As Ollie was saying about this dry line, you can make out the dry line here on the grid, and that is on the left-hand side of the track. Finley is sitting nice and beautifully in that dry line, but any car on the right-hand side has got to start on the wet line on slicks. So Darrell Wilson, as we can see here, very quick from the off. Will he do as we expect? We don't know. We're not sure quite what we're going to expect with Darrell, but with Darrell, he can always pull out something of a bit of a surprise. Now, Dan's just moving the car forward. We're not sure why. In fact, so is Jessica, and looks like Lewis and Derek as well. So there might be another change going on here on the grid. This is happening live, of course. We don't quite know what is happening, but it looks like there may be a change to the grid. I know it was still going to the clerk of the course. They were still discussing. There was an appeal going on. So it looks like the appeal may have gone through, which may be reinstating Dan Lloyd back into pole position. This is a story for Andy to pick up, I'm sure, because he'll have a bit more information up there in the commentary tower. It does look like they're rearranging the cars now. So almost scrub what we've been talking about so far here on the grid. This is a live situation, of course. We don't quite know what's happening. It's coming through at the same time as you, but it looks to me like Dan Lloyd has been pushed back to pole position. It looks like Ollie Taylor is moving back as well. They are reverting to the original grid, I've been told. So that moves everything back around, which means Ollie Taylor is now going back. So is Aiden Moffitt. Dan Lloyd, current championship leader, is now going back to pole position. That is the big story right now. So we've had a whole situation really where the underweight cars went through scrutiny and they found to be underweight, but there was a slight technicality there with how this was discovered, and that means that it went to appeal, it went to the stewards, it went to the clerk of the course. It was originally upheld, but they were still going through the appeal process when we went live here at 5:10. As we know, we're getting ready for this race. It's only a couple of minutes away. The marshals are moving the cars back into the original qualifying position. So a quick run through then of what's going to happen. I'm sure that Andy will pick this up, but it now means that Dan Lloyd is going to be on pole, Aiden Moffitt moving back to second, Ollie Taylor third, Andreas Bachmann going to fourth, Josh Price now fifth, Finley Crocker moving back to sixth. And actually what it means for people like Ollie Taylor, he was saying he was going to be starting on the wet line. Well, now, if he moves over to the other side, although he'll be in third, he'll be on the dry line. So, got to weigh that one up. That might mean better for him for traction getting off the grid. We don't know quite what's going to happen in this first race. As we turn around as well, if you look down the hill, you can see just how tight that left-hander is at the very bottom and how crucial it is to get onto the dry line on the way in. So that means that Dan will have the dry line entering that corner. It means that Ollie Taylor will have the dry line as well. And it means for Aiden Moffitt, who just, 5-10 minutes ago was looking nice and pretty on pole position on the dry line, is now going to be switching to the wet line. This one might take some clearing up, I imagine, for poor Andy up there in commentary, and I imagine this race is going to be very, very hard to call, because going into that tight left-hander, we expect a fair bit of incident. Just going to quickly talk about tyres as well. If we have a quick look at tyres while we're trying to work out exactly what's happening, if we have a look down here on the tyres, I did say that a lot of them are on slicks. They are all on slicks. At Silverstone, when we had similar track conditions in qualifying anyway, we had a bit of a combination of dries and wet tyres. We had dries on the back and wets on the front, and then they would swap them around to get the most out of the car and to get the most impressive lap time. We're going for consistency here. And so, yeah, we're going for consistency here. I've just been told that Ollie is now moving over to the left-hand side. So consistency being key for a race. When you've now got slick tyres and you're starting on a dry line, that is, of course, a massive, massive advantage. And a lot of the teams got the drivers scratching heads, not quite sure what's happened. It's delayed a fair bit. Of course, all the drivers would have known that the appeal was going through, so this was always a possibility. We're going to move slightly out of the way because we know that Aiden's got to move just to where we were standing. But, so I'm trying to get out of the way and not get run over by a car. A lot of tense faces here on the grid, I think it's fair to say. And as we look skywards as well, this delay, while we've been talking, has brought in quite a lot of grey sky. Doom impending. But yeah, grey skies above us, slick tyres on all the cars below. That might come into play a little bit later on, because imagine if 3-4 laps into this, the heavens open and all the cars have to go into the pits. All this will almost count for nothing, as they all have a race to get onto those wet tyres, or maybe brave it out there. As we move a little bit further back, and while the marshals are still working on what they're doing, Finley Crocker being moved backwards, as have pretty much all the drivers. Andreas Bachmann, well, he's gone from a very, very nice position of being on the dry. We talk about the dry position on dry tyres, but he's gone from that lovely position of being in prime position to go very quickly on the dry line. He now has to start with this. I'm just not sure if you can make out how wet this is, but you can see the dry to the right-hand side. I mean, get you a nice little look there. It is completely different, the dry and the wet line. We've had one race here at Knockhill so far today, and that one race has created this beautiful dry line. But yesterday, when we were looking at the qualifying, a lot of times the cars were coming out to the right-hand side of the track on the start-finish. It just means they're going to have to tuck in now on this reverse rotation, the anti-clockwise rotation that we're on with the circuit here at Knockhill this weekend. So Finley Crocker moving back here now. He will feel, I'm not sure how happy he'll feel about that. The car is performing a lot better than it was, and he is performing a lot better than he was as well. He said to me yesterday that he was struggling with qualifying pace, but on race pace he's pretty good. Actually, Josh Price here, we've seen him in other forms of touring car. He is new to TCR, and yesterday they had a real problem with their car, so they had a new engine fitted. A new engine from practice to qualifying. They stripped the engine out, put a new engine in. So that one has got a brand new engine in there, pretty much unused as well, so we're not sure how that engine's going to fare. Looking around a bit further, well, Sean Walkinshaw down here as well, they had a new part put in. They had a broken wishbone, so they flew a brand new wishbone in, believe it or not, through Friday night, which arrived Saturday around lunchtime, around 1 o'clock, flew it in from Italy. That part arrived for Sean Walkinshaw's car that was driven at Silverstone by Howard Fuller. Darrell Wilson, well, we know what he's like out on track, very, very quick, but will he be able to push forward from here? It's very tricky, as we know. And Derek Palmer right at the back, he's been really struggling with that car recently. Whether it come good, we don't know. And finally, Lewis Kent here. We know he's got very, very strong race pace and was very good in qualifying. But it's whether or not those young shoulders are going to be able to take on the challenge of Knockhill in reverse. So that's it from me on the grid. I think we can hand back now to our commentator as the cars fire up. Let's hand over to our commentator, Andy McEwen. Here he is.
Thank you very much, Bryn. Well, what drama we have experienced over the course of the last half an hour. We've had several different versions of the grid sent to us. The last we knew before the cars left the pit lane to head out onto the grid, we were going to see 4 cars sent to the back. They've now been reinstated back into their original grid positions. We already had an awful lot unknown coming into this weekend. We've got a circuit that not a lot of the drivers have driven in either direction, let alone in this reverse direction that's being used for the TCR UK race weekend here today. We had that rain overnight. It stopped raining properly probably about an hour ago, and we had a couple of support races before the TCR cars made their way out onto the circuit. That means that, as you can see, the circuit is drying. Now, in certain parts of the circuit, like here up at the top of the chicane, it's a dry line, not a dry track. But in other areas, we just saw a shot of the hairpin, the first corner, because there's an awful lot of overtaking happens down there. It's a bit of a wider line, both on entry and exit. So I think the simple answer is we don't really know what's going to happen. We already didn't really know what was going to happen. We're now even more in the dark. But Daniel Lloyd, as we know it, is back on pole position alongside one of 4 local heroes. It's a remarkably high percentage of the grid this year are Scottish in origin, and Aiden Moffitt, the highest qualifying of the Scottish drivers there on the outside of row 1 now. You can see the difference there quite clearly between the dry left-hand side of the track and the still quite damp right-hand side of the circuit. That's going to be interesting to watch. Ollie Taylor, I've been told that he's definitely one to watch out for if it's mixed conditions. He really enjoys it, and that probably explains why he was feeling so up for it when he chatted to Bryn just now down on the grid. The safety car just making its last safety check of the circuit. That's definitely drying out there up towards Butchers and into the left-hander at Scotsman. And it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers tackle that in the dry conditions that we've enjoyed all weekend. Yesterday, temperatures in the 20s, bright sunshine, bone dry track. In fact, if anything, the drivers were complaining that the track temperature was too high. I don't think they'll have that issue today. But in the dry conditions, we see drivers really using an awful lot of curbs, both on the inside of the corners, on the apexes, and on corner exit as well. But the curbs will be the last things to dry out, and wet paint is extremely slippery, and so that's one thing the drivers will be keen to avoid, is running on those curbs, particularly in the early stages, particularly on cold tyres. Well, the grid has more or less been cleared by the looks of it, so I think we are getting towards the point where we're going to get the green flag lap underway. There is Dan Lloyd, championship leader, of course. Dan Lloyd arriving here at Knockhill after a flawless opening weekend of the season at Silverstone, where he took 91 points out of the weekend, meaning that he arrives here in Scotland 25 points clear of anybody else. It's actually Ollie Taylor who is his nearest rival in the championship. He's second on 66 points, but then it all gets quite tight. Taylor is only 2 points clear of Andreas Beckman, one of the Swedish drivers. We've got the Beckman brother and sister combination back with us here at Knockhill. Andreas was a real standout performer last time out at Silverstone. He's third in the points. Howard Fuller is fourth in the points, but is not here this weekend, as we get a shot there of Josh Price's car being pushed to the back of the grid. Now, I thought for a moment it was going to the pit lane, but it's not, is it? It's being put into the last grid slot. So why, I know not, but Josh Price, who was originally going to start 5th on the grid, is at the back. I'm hearing it's because they changed an engine. Now, I know they changed an engine between free practice and qualifying yesterday. Bryn was documenting that earlier on. That therefore must mean that they have to start from the back of the grid. So there we go. That's just another little bit of shuffling going on out on the circuit. Josh Price, definitely one to watch out for. Yeah, the point I was making about Howard Fuller, 4th in the points, but he's not made the journey up it to Scotland, and so his car, it's the black and blue Civic just in front of Josh Price's machine, being driven by Sean Walkinshaw of Sean Walkinshaw Racing, of course, the team that run that car, and he is struggling at the moment to get to grips with front-wheel drive in what is remarkably, for a driver who has had a very successful career internationally in sports car and GT racing, this is his first ever experience of racing a front-wheel drive touring car, so Sean Walkinshaw, one of the drivers to look for a bit further down the grid. Another one I reckon is Lewis Kent, because Lewis had real flashes of brilliance over the course of Friday's test sessions and yesterday's free practice session, in particular in the morning between quick. just couldn't quite pull it out of the bag in qualifying. 7th on the grid for Lewis Kent. They had clutch issues at Silverstone. That's why the orange and white Hyundai i30 was not at the sharp end of the grid like we expected it to be, and Lewis will definitely be looking to try and put that right over the course of the two 30-minute races here today. 30 minutes, an awfully long time to be out there on track. We didn't really see many tyre issues at Silverstone because it was so cold, and because the Silverstone circuit's not particularly demanding on tyres. Knockhill is, though. Knockhill is still a short circuit, of course, but it throws an awful lot of corners at you in a short space of time, and that really works the tyres. It works the suspension as well. We've had a few suspension issues over the weekend from hitting the curbs and just the general compressions through the undulations on this circuit. And 30 minutes is a long race. It's longer than your average touring car race, and that really brings an extra bit of strategy into it, particularly in a circuit that is so taxing on the cars as Knockhill. You have to manage the tyres, you have to manage the brakes, you have to manage the suspension. Don't go driving over the curbs when the tyres are cold and at low pressures, because that can come back to bite you later on in the race with in the form of a potential late race puncture. And there's an awful lot to think about in a TCR UK Championship race, and with all of the added drama that we've had pre-race here this morning, I'd imagine not many of the drivers are in an ideal mindset, and they're all about to go charging down into that notoriously tight hairpin to kickstart round number 3 of the championship. There's Josh Price then at the back of the grid, the BMR Auto Glim Academy run machine. Josh, former Renault Clio Cup driver, and indeed race winner in what is one of the most hotly contested tin top feeder series in the UK. And Josh making his debut in TCR racing here at Knockhill. For what it's worth, the race has been declared a wet race by the officials, meaning that if the drivers wanted to, they are perfectly free to use wet tyres, unless it's been declared a wet race. Hinted on the grid. If it does start raining, they may have to dive into pit lane. Green flag lap is underway then. The cars are released from the grid. I'm holding my breath and hoping they all get going, because yes, there he goes off Price's back. Does now get going, and they make their way down towards the head on this green flag lap, working really hard to try and get some temperature into those tyres. It gives me a chance, therefore, to run through the grid, and it is headed, as you might have heard, by Daniel Lloyd, the championship leader. He took pole position yesterday by around about a quarter of a second, but I anticipate things are going to be quite tight over the course of the races. That was quite a lap that he pulled out of the bag. But Daniel Lloyd is on pole position, and alongside him is Aiden Moffitt in the Alfa Romeo. Ollie Taylor in the Civic is third, making it 3 different makes of car in the top 3 positions on the grid, ahead of Andreas Beckman, who has all weekend long been Dan Lloyd's nearest rival. But 4th place in qualifying, he was a little bit disappointed with that. I think he's one to watch for, and he comes from a rallycross background as well. Well, not at times can feel a bit like that stage, a rallycross circuit, and in the slippery conditions, he should feel right at home. Josh Price and Finley Crocker make up the 3rd row of the grid. Finley Crocker, of course, in the new shape FK8 Honda Civic. Then Lewis Kent and Jessica Beckman, sister Andreas, make up row 4. Row 5 for the Astra of Darryl Wilson, struggling for pace a little bit this weekend. There he is in the green number 50 car, and alongside him is Sean Walkinshaw in the 55 car, with Derek Palmer at the back of the grid in the second of the Laser Tours Racing Alfa Romeo. Of course, correct myself, Josh Price is also now at the back of the grid, not taking up his 5th place starting position. They make their way up through what is now the final turn, Duffus Dip, and out onto the main straight again. There isn't a bad vantage point around Knockhill. Wherever you are as a spectator, or looking down the lens of one of our cameras, you can get a cracking view of what is one of the most remarkable circuits in the UK. They're getting 2 green flag laps, incidentally, and this is because of the change of conditions since qualifying. Qualifying, as I said, bone dry, scorching hot temperatures, and so, as you can quite clearly see, it's not quite the same now, so they're getting an extra green flag lap to give them just a little more opportunity to see exactly what the conditions are like, get a bit more heat in the tyres as well. It's a short lap. so they are looking to try and get as much temperature into the tyres as possible. So I've run you through the grid. Apologies for the lack of graphics. Some slight technical gremlins mean that we can't show you the grid graphics, but I'll do my very best over the course of this race and all of the others to keep you up to date with what's going on grid-wise, obviously the results, and I've got the live timing on the go here in the commentary booth, and that will help me to figure out who is going quickly, who maybe looked after the tyres and is a bit stronger later on in the race. The timing screen, I think, is going to be almost as useful as the TV pictures in this race in particular, as you see a few quick drivers coming through from the back of the grid, trying to set the quickest lap times possible, and of course trying to overtake all the cars with a less than ideal damp line that they'll have to use. So Daniel Lloyd now slowing the pace down, that's so that the field is as bunched up as possible. The last thing he wants to do is to build up all the temperature in the tyres and the brakes, and then have to sit for an age on pole position waiting for the rest of the grid to form into line. So he's kept up a decent pace throughout the green flag laps. Now he's slowing things down so that he's not sat there waiting for them for too long. They are now making their way up onto the grid. Billy Crocker there and Lewis Kent weaving around, getting some last-minute heat into the tyres. Weaving around does some of the work as far as tyre temperature is concerned, but actually slamming on the brakes does more, because the brake discs get up to ridiculously high temperatures. That heat then dissipates out into the tyres. That's why you see them often on the green flag laps standing on the brakes and then accelerating and spinning the wheels as they do so. Well, we are here finally then. Round number 3 of the TCR UK Championship 2018 is about to get underway. Dan Lloyd and Aiden Moffitt make up the front row of the grid. The red lights go on. When they go out, we are racing for round number 3 of the TCR UK Championship. They go out now, away we go, and the cars launch over the hill down towards turn 1. Dan Lloyd makes a good start, and Ollie Taylor, as predicted with the dry side of the road, gets into second place ahead of Aiden Moffitt. So Lloyd leads into the hairpin, Taylor second, Moffitt there in third place, and look at Lewis Kent. Lewis Kent round the outside, started 7th, he was very nearly 4th place, but then gets elbowed out into the dirt by Finley Crocker, and that's a real shame for Lewis Kent. Right then, down towards the next left-hander we go. This is into Clark's curve, and Lloyd, although he has the lead, not really pulling away yet from Ollie Taylor in second place. They plunge downhill. Look how tentative they are. They don't know how much grip there's going to be. They don't know how much tyre temperature they've got. Look at the state of the front end of Lewis Kent's car. There's Josh Price, already making some progress from the back. He's got himself up ahead of Derek Palmer Jr. Next target will be Sean Walkinshaw as Ollie Taylor gets sideways there. They're all skating around with ice-cold rear tyres, but not Dan Lloyd. He is planted. He leads the way. Taylor second, Moffitt third, Andreas Beckman fourth, Finley Crocker there in fifth. Daryl Wilson is sixth from ninth on the grid. Jessica Beckman, and then this is the back towards the back end of the field. 2 of the Civics ahead of 1 of the Alfa Romeos, and that is the back that includes a fired-up Josh Price, who's looking up the inside of Sean Walkinshaw here, down towards the hairpin. Is he about to go through? We'll have to wait and see. Lewis Kent there defending from Jessica Beckman. What's going on behind? Yes, I think Price has gone through, and possibly Palmer as well. Yes, so Sean Walkinshaw loses 2 positions as a result of that. Right then, midfield squabble makes its way down into Clark's once more, and Darrell Wilson in front of Lewis Kent, and Lewis will be keen to find a way through if he can, because he will feel that he's quicker than Darrell. He only qualified about 0.4 of a second quicker than Wilson, but we know that Kent ought to have more pace in that car, really. It doesn't look very pretty at the moment with all of the Knockhill mud smeared across the front of the car, but he's looking racy as he heads in towards the left-hander there at Scotsman. Lewis all weekend has been one of the most spectacular drivers as far as his curve usage is concerned, and you can see that there as he leaps into the air, appearing into view out of Duffus Corner and back onto the pit straight. The way that Josh Price has already latched onto the tail end of this group as well. He's having another look at the inside of Jessica Beckman here, and Josh Price is really carving his way through. He's up the inside, another place gain there for the BMR Auto Good Academy driver. His next target is Lewis Kent, and he's flashing the lights already at the youngster. These are the 2 youngest drivers, in fact, in the series, both teenagers still remarkably, and that should be guaranteed. Fireworks as Darrell Wilson's off in the gravel. Oh, Darrell Wilson, he got loose turning into Clark's there. You can only assume that was a cold tyre issue, and he's spat himself off into the gravel trap. Thankfully, he has been able to rejoin, but Darrell Wilson, unfortunately, losing a lot of ground. There's a replay. Yeah, the car just wasn't settled as it came down what is quite a severe plunge downhill through Clark's Corner there, and thankfully, with the wet gravel, he's able to sort of just bounce his way through it and rejoin without getting stuck. Right, at the front of the field, this is the fight for second place, and it's all starting to get quite interesting now. Dan Lloyd is escaping up the road. All the while, Aiden Moffitt is stuck behind Ollie Taylor. Ollie, who made perfect use of the dry side of the grid to get himself up ahead of Aiden, but now he's having to get his elbows out to defend. Now, one of the key themes this weekend has been overtaking. It is a narrow, tight and twisty circuit, and regardless of which direction you run it, overtaking is not easy. The hairpin is by far and away the most obvious place to try and make a move, and the drivers were all quite keen to get into a race situation to see exactly where the other overtaking opportunities were likely to be. Well, Aiden Moffitt is now going to have to start getting inventive to find a way past Ollie Taylor. He has a good run out of Duffus there. He's in the slipstream over the hill, and he's probably going to force Taylor to defend here down towards the hairpin. Yep, Ollie moves over to the inside. Aiden thinks about it, almost into the back of the Civic, but just about avoids contact. And who gets the exit speed? It's fairly equal, I think. Andreas Beckman is also part of this group there. He is the Golf with the red highlights there, running in 4th position. They turn their way back down towards Clark. They happen to be quite tentative here because there's water on the road. There's quite a lot of mud that's been dragged out over the curb there as well on corner entry. Possibly that contributed to Darrell Wilson's moment. Moffitt there with 2 wheels on the grass as well. It's all very, very lively indeed, isn't it? In the Laser Tool Racing Alfa Romeo, who's got mud all over the windscreen, mud down the side of the cars, and he's driving it around like a rally car. You can be forgiven for thinking that this was an Alfa Romeo WRC car, couldn't you? It is very spectacular stuff watching Aiden Moffitt wrestle that car around. Further back, I can tell you that Lewis Kent has had some dramas. He's dropped down to 10th position somewhere along the line. Lost about 4 places on the previous lap. We'll see if we can catch up with that in a moment. Ollie Taylor continues to defend this 2nd place from Aiden Moffitt in 3rd and Andreas Beckman in 4th. Back out of the hairpin, they're getting ever closer together, and this is where tactics and psychology comes into it. Because as I said earlier on, it's a long race. We've still got 25 minutes to go. We're anticipating well over 30 laps, the duration. Now, when you're under the sort of pressure that Ollie Taylor's under here, can you really drive 35 or so inch perfect laps? Because if you can't, and there's the mistake, as I said it, Ollie Taylor loses it through the left-hander. He's all over the grass. Moffitt will go through, Beckman will go through, and right on cue, that was the mistake that Aiden Moffitt was looking for. He was applying the pressure, and he knew that if he couldn't force a way through, the best way to get past was to force the mistake out of the driver in front, and that is exactly what he did. Here's a replay. Look, he turns into the left-hander there at Butchers, just loses the rear of the car over the crest, did a good job of saving it, but and in fact Aiden Moffitt wasn't quite sure whether to put his foot down and try and make the move there, but he did in the end go around the outside. He takes over 2nd place, Ollie Taylor into 3rd. Sorry, down to 3rd, because he's actually still in front of Andreas Beckman, which is interesting. I thought Andreas had gone through as well there, but that's not the case. So Taylor is still in 3rd. He'll have dirt all over his tyres though, and that's contributing to Aiden Moffitt being able to build up this handy advantage now in 2nd place. Back down to chicane, the rear of the Civic does look rather lively, doesn't it, as he plunges downhill. This was the scene of the crime a lap ago. To this time, but Andreas Beckman will sense blood in the water. He will know now that Ollie Taylor might not be all that happy with the balance of the rear end of his car, and so Beckman will be looking now to do exactly what Moffitt did, get himself latched right onto the rear bumper of the number 32 machine and try and force another mistake out of the man who arrives here in Scotland, 2nd place in the championship. Andreas Beckman came here 3rd in points, and he's only actually 3 points behind Taylor, so this is a battle that takes on some extra significance now when you start applying the championship situation to it. Early days in the championship, I know, but still, all points count. It's important to try and get points on the board early on in the season. You never know how close it's going to be when we get to the end of the year. So Moffitt into 2nd, Taylor 3rd, Beckman 4th. Josh Price is up to 5th place now, by the way, and Taylor sideways again. Ollie Taylor sideways again through the chicane. Now, did he gather that together? He did, and somehow he's still got Beckman behind him. Andreas is looking at the inside again there into Scotsman. But Ollie Taylor may be running into tyre issues, although you'd find it hard to believe that he's overheated the tyres in these sort of conditions. Possibly just dialed a bit too much oversteer into the car, and it's costing him. Here's a replay. Look, yes, he's turned in and didn't have the rear of the car underneath him, and that's even more Scottish mud all over his tyres. Crucially, though, did not lose that podium place. Andreas Beckman will be a little frustrated by that, because that's 2 opportunities he's had now to take advantage of a Taylor moment. On the occasions, he's been able to make it stick. So they've just come back across the start-finish line. The point I was about to make was that Josh Price had moved into 5th. And one of the Golfs, by the looks of it, has shed its bumper. We're also hearing that Lewis Kent has some damage, but Jessica Beckman, I noticed, has dropped to the back of the field. So I think that was Jessica's rear bumper. And also, we believe we may have lost a Hyundai. Oh yes, look at that, the bit of bodywork hanging down on the rear of Kent's car, and now Finley Crocker's off. Would you believe it? It's not been a good day for Honda Civic drivers, has it? Finley Crocker off there. That was coming out of Clark's as well. And so Darrell Wilson will go through. So too will Lewis Kent. Another replay here. Clips the curb. That was understeer that time. Clipped the curb. The car never turned in. And Finley's been struggling with understeer all weekend. He said to me on Friday that they spent all day really trying to lose rear grip from the rear of the car to help it turn. You really need a good, strong front end here at Knockhill because there's so many demanding corners. And if the car is understeering, then that's not producing good lap times. So Daniel Lloyd leading the way. Moffitt second. He's 6.2 seconds back. And lapping on a par with Dan. Dan, in fact, has just set the fastest lap of the race, a 52.155 second lap. That is about 1.3 seconds off pole position, so that goes to show that the conditions still aren't ideal. Here's this fight for third then between Ollie Taylor and Andreas Beckman. And Andreas, well, can he do anything about Ollie Taylor? He's had a few opportunities to do something. We've still got, I believe, just 21 minutes to go, so we're not even a third of the way into this race. The laps are flying by, already 10 laps completed by our leader, Dan Lloyd, and Andreas really just needs to be patient here. That's easier said than done, because you can see Aiden Moffitt disappearing up the road, and if we cast our minds back to Silverstone, in particular race 2 at Silverstone last time out, Andreas and Aiden put on a real show throughout the duration of race 2. Aiden got into second place ahead of Andreas early on, and then Andreas spent the rest of the race trying to get it back, and they made a bit of contact on a couple of occasions, but that was good, hard touring car racing. And we wonder whether maybe Andreas is going to have to get a bit physical here to find a way past Ollie Taylor. Moffitt turns his way through Duffers. Well, that appears to have come down. That's not 3.5 seconds anymore, is it? Between Moffitt and Taylor. Let's see, is this going to be a poor lap from Moffitt? His last lap actually retook the fastest lap away from Dan Lloyd, but that lap was that's the reason. 3 seconds slower, lost the rear of the car again and off into the gravel trap, this time at Scotsman. So even Aiden Moffitt, you can tell he was pushing on. As I say, he just set the fastest lap of the race and had started actually to take a bit of time out of Dan Lloyd, but clearly he's found the limit of adhesion there, and whether that will maybe now tempt him into just backing it off slightly throughout the latter part of the race, we'll have to wait and see. That means that Taylor and Andreas Beckman have now closed in substantially onto the tail of the race Alfa Romeo Giulietta. We'll wait to see whether or not they're able to do anything about that. Taylor third, Beckman fourth. Josh Price in fifth, incidentally, is lapping quicker than these two, as here we've got side-by-side action between Lewis Kent and Jessica Beckman. So these are the two walking wounded cars towards the tail end of the field. They're fighting over 10th place. Jessica has it, Lewis wants it, and is probably prepared to take quite a risk to do it, because Lewis was one of the drivers who I spoke to earlier on in the weekend who said, yeah, don't listen to anyone who tells you you can't overtake here. You can overtake as long as you're brave, you've got to be committed. But there are opportunities to find a way through as long as you're not afraid to get stuck in. And Lewis, as the youngest driver in the championship, you'd be willing to bet is not afraid to get stuck in. He's right on the tail of Jessica Beckman's VW Golf as it comes out onto the pit straight. He had a better exit from Duffus, gets up the inside line, and this should be fairly plain sailing on the brakes, although Jess is trying to fight back around the outside. But no, Lewis got to the apex first and will move through into 10th position. 5-second time penalty we're being notified of for Lewis Kent for exceeding the track limit. So that move actually matters little, because on corrected times he's now back behind Jessica Beckman, and it's early in the race to be given a 5-second time penalty as well, because they accumulate throughout the race. If he keeps doing it, that 5 seconds could become 10 seconds, could become 15 seconds, could become a full race exclusion. So he has to be quite careful here as to how he goes about tackling the rest of this race. Got a good look there of Derek Palmer Jr., who is running in 6th place, which would be by far his best result of the season so far. What was Derek? Well, he didn't finish the first race at Silverstone, and he finished 12th in race 2. So Derek Palmer Jr. in the second of the Laser Tools Racing Alfa Romeo Giuliettas, having by far his best weekend of the season. Mind you, it's not hard to improve on the disaster it was Silverstone for Derek. He's had some braking issues this weekend, so as slowly getting back on top of them. problem. There's his teammate Moffitt, back through Duffus. Ollie Taylor appears to have got the measure of Andreas Beckman for the time being as well. The gap last time around was just under a second. Let's see what it is this time through. It is, well, 8/10 of a second, so much of a muchness, as Aiden Moffitt sets the new fastest lap. So he's not backed off after that gravelly moment he had earlier on. He's 8.6 seconds behind Dan Lloyd, and to be fair, was only 2/10 quicker than as well. But never know, if we were to get a safety car, really brings things up, and Aiden is keen to prove that he's got the pace, as there's another mistake for Ollie Taylor, who's off in the gravel again, and this time he's done it. Andreas Beckman will go through, and Ollie Taylor, for the third time this race, loses rear grip turning into a corner and skates off into the gravel. He's done it at 3 different corners as well. Now, it's benefited Andreas Beckman in that it's given him third place, but as we'll see after we've seen this replay, there you can see just understeered his way straight off into the gravel trap. It kicked up quite a lot of mud that appears to have found its way onto the front end of Beckman's car, unless Beckman's then had a subsequent moment, but there we go. So Ollie Taylor finally relinquishes that third place, and that means that Beckman can now go after his sparring partner from Silverstone, Aiden Moffitt. Finley Crocker's off now as well. Finley Crocker's lost it, that's on the exit of the chicane, and look at all of the rubbish that he's dragged onto the circuit with him. And, well, this is going to be a 16-point turn, I think, isn't it, to get back in the right direction. He's got to watch out for traffic coming down the hill. There was the race leader, Dan Lloyd. That would have been a focusing moment for Dan. Now, let's hope Finley doesn't get bogged down on that grass. Look at the debris that's been scattered by various cars that have had moments at the chicane. Finley is going to rejoin all right in front of Andreas Beckman. That's going to make his day. And Finley now gets out of the way of a sideways Ollie Taylor. When isn't he sideways in this race? He's now got Josh Price on his tail, and Josh is now looking to try and get into 4th place. With still just over half the race to go, don't count out Josh Price for a podium finish here from the back of the grid after an engine change yesterday. His first ever experience of racing a TCR car, his first ever experience of racing Knockhill in this direction, and Josh Price is 2 positions and about 1 second away from a podium finish. Replay here of possibly what happened to Finley Crocker. That's Sean Walkinshaw, and appearing from stage right is a completely out of control Finley Crocker. Well, 10 out of 10 for style. That was very impressive indeed. Finley actually got stuck in the gravel there yesterday, and well and truly stuck in the gravel is Lewis Kent, and this could be a safety car. I think that is down at Scotsman's, just at the bottom of the hill towards the end of the lap. Yes, it is. And Lewis appears to have gone straight on into the tyre wall. Hopefully not too much damage done, but that could be deemed to be a dangerous position. Let's watch out. Car number 50, incidentally, Darrell Wilson been given a 5-second penalty for exceeding the track limits, just to let you know about that. And yeah, there's Kent. Well, no damage done, I don't think, but the car is beached, I would say, and may not be going anywhere. Aiden Moffitt, I'm seeing on the timing screen, is dropping down the order as well for some reason. Is that correct? It appears to be, because look what's happened here. We've got Beckman, Taylor and Price together. Lewis Kent is out of the car, and the safety car is being scrambled, but on my timing screen, Aiden Moffitt has not come through. Now, is that a timing glitch, or have we lost the local hero somewhere out on circuit? He should be not far up the road from these 3, and he doesn't appear to be. Let's wait and see. Watch this space on that one then, but Andreas Beckman certainly still ahead of Ollie Taylor and ahead of Josh Price. This is all about to get neutralised because the safety car is being scrambled, as I suspect it will be the case, so as to allow the marshals to retrieve Lewis Kent's car. Have we lost Aiden Moffitt? Let's see. I think we have, you know. So Lloyd still leads the race, and of course that very comfortable, nearly a 10-second lead is now going to evaporate, and I think Andreas Beckman might be into 2nd place. We'll get a better view of this now when we pan around. Is that Aiden's car from the distance? I think it is, just on the inside of the track. So we have indeed lost Aiden Moffitt. So we know not why. We have to assume mechanical problems. But Aiden Moffitt is out of the race. This has huge ramifications for his championship, of course, because he arrived here already 47 points behind the championship leader. Now, OK, there are some 90 points available over the course of every TCR UK race weekend. But nonetheless, with Dan Lloyd there is confirmation. There's Aiden Moffitt's car. There's no damage done to it. He's just pulled off the road. But that is not going to help Aiden's championship cause one little bit. So the renewed order is Dan Lloyd leads the way by now absolutely nothing over his teammate Andreas Beckman in 2nd place. So it's West Coast Racing, Volkswagen Golf GTI 1-2. Ollie Taylor and Josh Price are 3rd and 4th in their pair of Civics, but not being run from the same stable, remember, so they're not teammates. The next car in line is the FK8 Civic of Finley Crocker. He, of course, is a lap down. So actually, Derek Palmer Jr. is in the top 5. He'll be elated with that. 6th place there is Sean Walkinshaw in the black and blue Civic, and 7th is Darryl Wilson, but as I mentioned, he's been given a 5-second time penalty for exceeding the track limits. So too earlier on had Lewis Kent, but I guess that doesn't really matter now because he's out of the race anyway. Jessica Beckman is 8th and still on the lead lap. So we've got 8 cars remaining on the lead lap. Finley Crocker's a lap down, Aiden Moffitt and Lewis Kent out of the race. Well, deep breath everyone, we've still got 12 minutes to go, so we will go racing again after this safety car. I'm sure the ever-efficient Knockhill marshals will get Lewis Kent's car out of harm's way before too long. So we hopefully should have just over 10 minutes of racing remaining when this safety car goes in, but I'm fascinated to see what's going to happen between these 2 West Coast Racing teammates, because Andreas Beckman in 2nd position, as I said, he was a real revelation at Silverstone last time out. We really didn't expect that he'd have the sort of pace that he did have, as there we see the recovery process beginning down at Scotsman Corner for Lewis Kent's car to be moved. But yes, Andreas Beckman at Silverstone was very quick, but he wasn't Dan Lloyd quick. To be fair, nobody was. Dan Lloyd was the class of the field at Silverstone. This weekend, we had 4 free practice sessions on Friday. In the first free practice session, Andreas was about 4/10 slower than Dan Lloyd. In the second free practice session, he was about 1/10.5 slower than Dan Lloyd. And by the time we got through to the last free practice session of the day, Andreas was quicker than Dan Lloyd. So in a way, we all really expected it would be Beckman who would be Lloyd's biggest competition this weekend, and especially with the demise now of that man there, Aiden Moffitt, that could well and truly be the case. So, and just because they're teammates, don't imagine there'll be any team orders here. I know Dan Lloyd's leading the championship, but Andreas has the potential to be a championship contender this year as well. He's certainly got the speed. Need to wait to see what the rest of the season has in store for him. He's also racing, of course, over in the Scandinavian TCR Championship, along with his sister, Jessica Beckman, as Aiden Moffitt does his best to relax. Well, I suppose that's all you can do, really. It's been a very stressful last half an hour or so for the young Scottish driver, and Aiden Moffitt soaking up the sun, which does appear to be trying to break through the clouds here in Scotland. Complete polar opposite of the weather forecast that I saw yesterday, which said that it would be dry for the morning, and then race 2 could be wet this afternoon. Well, let's hope we've got all the rain out of the way, because it would be a real treat to see cars up to full racing speed in the second race later on. So Kent's car is out of the gravel trap now. There's a conversation going on. It looks like the car is actually fired back up, so Lewis, I don't think will be allowed to continue in the race because he's received outside assistance, but he'll at least be able to get the car back to the pit crew in the pit lane. And that is significant. Of course, one of the quirks of TCR racing is that between the 2 races there is an allotted time, and it's not very long. It's 20 minutes that they have during which they can work on the cars. So it's a 20-minute repair window is what it's called between races, and any time before or after that repair window, the cars are in part firmer. You can't touch them, and so if there is any damage done to that Hyundai i30N TCR car, then the team are going to need the maximum amount of time, the Essex and Kent Motorsport team, the maximum amount of time to get the car fixed. And there you can see they're going to pull it back into the garage area. There is David, Lewis's grandfather, his father here as well, also helping with the team there, working on the car. They'll be looking at the damage at the back of the car, they'll be looking at potential damage at the front of the car. It's fair to say Lewis has had an entertaining race. He started 7th, was going for 4th at the first corner, then he was in the gravel. Doesn't look like that was the only time he's been in the gravel trap either, judging by the state of the car. The safety car, though, has returned to the pit lane, so we are about to go racing again. I think that's caught a few people on the hop slightly. There's Finley Crocker, he'll be looking maybe to get out of the way of some of the cars on the lead lap. Dan Lloyd enjoys now only a 1-second lead over his teammate Andreas Beckman in 2nd place. Ollie Taylor weaving around in 3rd place there. Oh, and Beckman's off, Beckman's straight on at the hairpin, and Ollie Taylor's back through. Andreas Beckman, all of that hard work he put in through the first half of the race to get 2nd place off Ollie Taylor, and he throws it all away on the restart, and that's very easily done because the brakes will have cooled down, the tyres will have cooled down, and you arrive at that hairpin very, very quickly, very steeply downhill. It's all too easy to do just that. We can change further back. Look, Sean Walkinshaw is ahead now of Derek Palmer Jr., so the Civic ahead of the Alfa Romeo. The Verizon Connect FK8 Civic in front of them. That is a lap down. That's Finley Crocker after his many woes that he's suffered in this race, but he's not exactly leaping out of their way, is he? Leaping into view, though, there is Andreas Beckman, and he's going to be well and truly annoyed with himself for that mistake that he made on the restart. Ollie Taylor's back into second place, but then he's been prone to mistakes already in this race, so Beckman will certainly feel he's got a chance to go back through. Has a look at the inside, there's maybe a bit of contact as they turned in, but Taylor hangs on to it. That was the definition of a last-minute lunge, that, wasn't it, for the Swedish driver, but nothing doing. He can't find a way through. So Ollie Taylor it is, who hangs on to second place. Beckman's still third. Dan Lloyd is escaping ever further up the road. And watch for Josh Price there in fourth place to try and close in on them. Well, if we can dare to take our eyes off the action on the circuit, I believe that Bryn has an update down in the pit lane for us with Lewis Kent.
Yeah, that's right, Andy. I've got a very dejected and disappointed Lewis Kent here. Lewis, what happened out on track for you?
First lap, I think someone else went out off in front of me, spattered a whole load of mud over my windscreen, just lost sight from lap one. Kept on missing all my lines, missing all my braking points just purely because I couldn't see that well out on track. Got to the bottom of the chicane, and as I come through the bottom I hit the brakes and missed my braking point, hit a bit of water, went in the gravel because I couldn't stop, just went into the wall. But yeah, it was literally just a fault of my own. But hopefully we can get it back fixed ready for the next one.
Yeah, it's not way back to end the race, but hopefully we'll see you back out for race 2. Thanks so much there to Lewis Kent.
Yeah, thank you, Bryn. As you can see, while Bryn was talking to Lewis, it's all kicked off. Josh Price has got himself up into second place. There's more contact there between Andreas Beckman and Ollie Taylor. Andreas went for a real lunge down at the hairpin that time through, shoulder barged his way past Ollie Taylor. They both went out wide, and Josh Price, through it all, has come past the pair of them. So Josh Price, remarkably, has come from the very back of the grid into second place. Here's what happened. The gap was there. You can see what Beckman was thinking, but the gap closed as they got to the corner. Ollie won't be best pleased with that, but he has subsequently got the place back. Josh Price initially got through into third ahead of Taylor, then he started to attack Beckman as well, and as he got past Beckman on the run into the chicane, so too Ollie Taylor was able to get back through as well. So what a race we've been treated to here. It's all starting to get a little bit physical, but this is touring car racing after all, and when it is difficult to pass here, you sometimes have to get a bit forceful. Josh Price there with 2 wheels in the dirt now as well. This is all music to the ears of Dan Lloyd, who is streaking way up in front. He's already nearly 4 seconds clear, and that gap's going to go up, I think, on this lap with more moments from the drivers behind. More changing going on here as well. Darrell Wilson, the green Astra, has got himself ahead of Derek Palmer Jr., so that now puts the Astra well, on the circuit up into 6th place. But remember that Darrell is the driver that's been given a 5-second penalty, so actually on corrected times he's still behind Derek Palmer, and he's also behind Jessica Beckman behind. Right then, it's a Honda Civic battle for 2nd place, and Josh Price is wide at the hair, but he's on the dirty side of the road, and Taylor's going to go through. He's going to lean on Price, and he does get 2nd place back. What a race this has been. Ollie Taylor has been up and down the field several times like the proverbial yo-yo, and he's now back into 2nd place, but can he hold on to it this time? Dan Lloyd still leads. It is Taylor in 2nd place. It's Josh Price back into 3rd. If they just keep it together, they'll both be on the podium, but they both want to finish in 2nd place. It will be Ollie Taylor's best finish of the season. It will be Josh Price's, well, it's his first race of the season, so of course it will be his best finish of the season. And to get onto the podium in his first race from the back of the grid would be an almighty achievement. But of course, he's a racing driver, and more to the point, he's a young racing driver out to prove a point. And if he can finish 2nd, then why settle for 3rd? Back down to the hairpin again. It could all kick off here again. Taylor knows it, and so he defends the inside line. Josh Price goes to the outside. Now he'll be looking to try and carry more momentum off the corner and get the run down towards Clark. It's quite tricky to do with the reverse direction at Knockhill, because you drop so steeply downhill at the apex, and that means you can't naturally, all front-wheel drive cars of course, you can't naturally want to steer out to the edge of the road, and so it makes that switchback movement quite tricky to execute in the reverse direction they have here at Knockhill. Ollie Taylor, dare I say it, is now starting to go into the gap over Josh Price. The question is, can he keep the car on the straight and narrow? It's clearly very lively at the rear end, and you can see there, through the chicane and the left-hand peak of Butchers, which is where the rear of the car gets the lightest, Josh Price was significantly quicker, so that might maybe be the part of the circuit where Josh needs to start trying to build up a bit of a challenge here to get 2nd place. Back over the pit straight they go. See, Andreas Beckman is still in 4th position ahead of Walkinshaw, who's now in 5th. Of course, it's his first ever, first ever TCR race. It's his first ever front-wheel drive touring car race, full stop, and he's into the top 5 ahead of Palmer 6th, Jessica Beckman 7th, Darrell Wilson 8th, runner lap down in 9th. Clark's with this almighty squabble for second place, and this is the part of the circuit where Price looks a little bit quicker than Taylor. So Taylor's built up a gap through the first half of the lap, but does he have confidence in the rear of the car to maintain that gap through the chicane? I think he does this time. That's where the tempo of the cars look over the curve through the chicane. Oh, Sean Walkinshaw using a lot of curve. Now the car in front of him, I remind you, is a lap down, but Sean is actually lapping quicker than the group of cars in front of him. So Sean can sense maybe a possibility to improve on his 5th place. There is Wilson ahead of Palmer. Palmer is ahead of Wilson on corrected times as a result of that track limits penalty. As the second place battle makes its way back into the hairpin. We have only 2 minutes and 20 seconds left, by the way, so with all of this going on, the second half of the race has gone by significantly quicker than the first half did, and so we're running out of laps now. 28 laps of lead by Dan. He's 4.5 seconds clear of this fight for second. It is still Taylor from Price. Rock recently caught up to the back of Andreas Beckman's to try and unlock himself, maybe. There is the Wilson and Palmer squabble. Although Derek will be fully aware of the fact that the car in front of him is 5 second penalties. Stating many risks. Oh, that's Crocker in strife again. Look in the background, and that's strewn even more mud all over the track. That's down at Scotsman Corner, and Finley Crocker, another driver we've seen struggling with rear end grip, hits the curb, takes off, lands badly, and the rest is history. And Andreas Beckman will have seen that happening in his mirrors and will have had everything crossed that Finley managed to slow it down in time to avoid running into him. So Dan Lloyd has gone through. He's got time, I reckon, for 2 more laps. So he will just look to try and stroke it home and further extend his championship lead. He does not have the fastest lap of the race, but that's not worth a point. So he is going to take maximum points from this race. And of course, another quirk of TCR UK racing is that we score points in qualifying as well. So for qualifying on pole position, a position that he was eventually reinstated into, of course, Dan Lloyd actually scored 10 points for that as well. So that means that 50 points will go the way of Dan Lloyd in total in this first race, but he will have to start from 9th on the grid in race 2 with the partially reversed grid system that we'll go through a bit later on. So Taylor comes across the line onto the final lap of the race. The last lap board there we saw being hung out, and what can Josh Price do? Can he find a way through? He's very late on the brakes into the hairpin, but the inside line was covered thoroughly by Ollie Taylor. So Josh now running out of options. That's by far the best overtaking opportunity on the circuit. It's not the only one, but it is the most obvious. The other place maybe to try and make a move. He's going to be out of the kink at Butchers and into Scotsman, where we just saw Finley Crocker getting all out of shape. And Josh is going to close enough, I think, to put him under pressure. Now, Dan Lloyd, I know I said he needs to stroke it home. That's a very leisurely pace coming through the last part of the lap. I hope he's not got an issue. Let's see. He's going to appear over the top of the hill. He is. I think he's just coasting home, but he's leaving it very, very tight indeed. For second place, it's going to be equally tight, but Dan Lloyd wins round number 3 of the TCR UK Championship. Ollie Taylor comes home second, and Josh Price will be third. And what a battle those two had. I can't wait to hear from Ollie and Josh down in the pit lane later on. Now, this is what happened in the last corner, we believe. Josh Price trying everything to get through. Oh, no, Darrell Wilson has collided with Finley Crocker, who is a lap down. So what on earth happened there? Well, Darrell Wilson was already going to finish 8th because of that 5 second penalty. He may now not finish at all. So Wilson and Crocker both in the gravel trap, but that was really unnecessary because they weren't even on the same lap, so it certainly wasn't a fight for position. Anyway, Daniel Lloyd is your winner, and he has the only clean car at Knockhill because he's not been on the grass, he's not had any contact. It was a stressful start to the race for him with all of the shuffling around on the grid, but he's well and truly put that behind him to take victory. His 3rd win from the first 3 races of the year. But can he double up in race 2? He starts 9th on the grid. He's got Aiden Moffitt with him on the 5th row of the grid, so they're both going to be looking to try and move through with the reverse grid system for race 2. We'll take the 2nd fastest qualifying times from qualifying yesterday and reverse them. So Aiden Moffitt, who his 2nd fastest qualifying time was the fastest of anyone, if you see what I mean. So he starts 10th, and I believe, just shuffling the paperwork to try and find the grid for race number 2. It is, yes, Sean Walkinshaw and Darrell Wilson who will line up together on the front row for race 2. We've just seen Sean Walkinshaw drive through to 5th in his first ever front-wheel drive touring car race. What can he do from pole position in race 2. So the Knockhill crowd, a sizable crowd that we've got here today as well, braving the slightly inclement conditions to come and support Britain's newest touring car championship. I know they're all so excited to have the championship here, and you can see that they're all thoroughly enjoying themselves and cheering the drivers in to the pit lane. The marshals have a fair bit of clear-up work to do before the next race on track can get underway, because half of the Knockhill gravel traps are now distributed across the entire width of the circuit. At the start of the day, we were talking about the wet and slippery parts of the circuit causing difficulties. Well, towards the end of that race, it was a case of driving on mud and gravel, not just wet tarmac. But there are our top 3 finishers then. Dan Lloyd, Ollie Taylor and Josh Price are podium finishers from round number 3 of the TCR UK Championship. 4th place was Andreas Beckman, 5th was Sean Walkinshaw, 6th Derek Palmer Jr., 7th was Jessica Beckman, and Darrell Wilson did recover from the gravel trap to finish 8th. Finley Crocker did not, though, so he will probably be classified as a non-finisher. There's Dan Lloyd, though. He is elated with that victory as well. He might be, and I think when he watches that race back, he'll be even more elated that he was able to escape all of the drama going on behind. Thumbs up all round there, and he will take his helmet off and very shortly, hopefully, have a chat with Bryn Lucas down in the pits. Ollie Taylor will be happy with that as well. 2nd place for him, and Ollie Taylor is going to be a serious thorn in Dan's side, I think, as the year goes on, and so too will Josh Price. Well then, Bryn is down there, there are handshakes all round, and Dan Lloyd, I'd imagine Bryn is rather happy with that.
Yeah, thanks very much there, Andy. I'm with the race winner. That was a kind of unexpected start, wasn't it, Dan?
It wasn't, yeah. It's been a bit of quite a few complications, but to be honest, I deserved to be there. It was the right thing. I was there, and glad it happened in the end. And once I got there, I don't really get nerves, but by the end of it, all the adrenaline, I was fully shaking. But I just needed to do the job and made sure I did it, so yeah.
You opened up a huge gap there at the start of the race, and then of course it all got pushed back together again with a couple of cars going off, Lewis Kent off, and then Aiden stopping out on track. So he was keeping that distance, that fight with you, but you seem to have it all under control.
Yeah, like I said, I was so revved up at the start. I was angry. So at the start, I put so much heat into my tyres, borderline chucking the car off on warm-up lap to get as much heat in as possible, and that's what allowed me to open up that gap at the start while it was still slippy. It sort of evened out, and Aiden was matching my pace. So when the safety car came out, I was gutted. Then I heard he stopped, which is unfortunate. I don't wish that upon anyone, but it made my life easier at the end of the race. So yeah.
Well, 3 races and 3 '1 trophies. You're getting quite a nice collection there. You need to buy some more books, some new books now. But you need to get another trophy, get those nice bookends.
No, yeah, it's good. I mean, like I say, we're going round by round at the moment. We need more support to carry on the season, and these are the types of results we need to keep on going and get that support. So, yeah, it's really good.
Well done. We'll go and get your trophy. We're going to run straight over. Well done there to Dan Lloyd, race winner. As we dive over here, I can see that Duncan is talking to Ollie Taylor. So we're going to jump to 3rd place and catch up with Josh Price. Now, Josh, that was an interesting start for you. You got moved to the back, and then to finish on the podium must be quite a result.
Yeah, we went from starting P4 to P5 to last. So it's as much as we could have hoped for, really. I think if I could have used my head a little bit more, we could have kept second, possibly pushed on if I was being awake at the safety car, but I wasn't.
Well, you also being pushed, like I say, by a very fast driver in Ollie Taylor.
Yeah, Ollie was good. His pace was good. It was easy for me to gauge off him where his pace was. So it was a good starting point for us as a team, and it's a good relief for the boys who worked really hard yesterday to get another engine in the car to be here today.
Yeah, that was a real push by the team. Well done there to Josh Price, 3rd place. And we've got one more driver to talk to if we have a couple of seconds. Let's dive over and get a quick word from Ollie Taylor then. You're getting a decent collection of trophies, a 2nd place one this time.
Yeah, 2nd place, that was good. Very eventful, wasn't it? Very eventful.
Very eventful. What was it like for you in the car with all the stuff going on around you?
Busy. It was busy, actually. You had to... so much going on. You had to prepare yourself for anything, action, defending, attacking, safety cars, accidents. I had a couple of offs myself, just trying to push it and just be on the edge, really. But it's good, great with the result.
You tried your best not to get a trophy, but you've got one. Go and collect it. Well done there to all 3 drivers, including Ollie Taylor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bryn. A an eventful third round of the TCR UK Championship 2018, and that wasn't even the reverse grid race. Here are the highlights of what happened. Let's see how much of this we can remember. It was a fairly sedate and sensible start, with Dan Lloyd converting pole into the race lead and Ollie Taylor leaping himself up ahead of Aiden Moffitt, but then the incident started coming. Darryl Wilson was the first to find the gravel trap over at Clark Corner on cold tyres, dug his way out onto the circuit again. It was a spectacular battle for second initially between Taylor and Aiden Moffitt, as Aiden in the Laser Tools Racing Alpha tried his best to find a way through, eventually forcing the mistake out of Taylor, who lost it through the left-hander at Butchers and handed second place over to Aiden Moffitt. Andreas Beckman initially got past him, then had to fight his way back through. Finley Crocker had a spectacular rotation up to the chicane, which put him a lap down, but that wasn't to be the last of his dramas. Jessica Beckman lost a bumper early on before Lewis Kent sent his Hyundai into the tyre wall, bringing out the safety car. It was a disappointing race for the youngster. On the restart, there was a mistake from Andreas Beckman in second place. He handed that position straight back to Ollie Taylor, and that set off what was a sensational battle between he, Taylor, and Josh Price. There was a little paint traded on a few occasions, but in the end, it was Taylor who was able to come through into second place. Dan Lloyd, though, was able to stroke it home for a comfortable third victory of the season to further extend his championship lead. Well, there is Josh Price. He's being sent up onto the podium. Third place finish for him. Jen from TCR there to give him the hug, and the TCR UK trophy as well. They're stunning things, the TCR UK trophies. There is Ollie Taylor, an even bigger hug for him in second position. But back onto the top step of the podium is Dan Lloyd. 3 wins from 3, extends his championship lead, but has to start from 9th on the grid for race 2. Well, that was an incredible first TCR UK race of the day. The second one is coming up later on this afternoon, coverage starting at about 2:15 for that one. We hope that you'll join us for that. But until then, it is goodbye. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Knockhill for the first race of the day for the Avon Tyres National Formula Ford 1600 Championship. This is their 5th round of the 2018 title campaign. Yesterday's race was an absolute thriller. The races from Silverstone were even better, and we're anticipating plenty of action over the course of the next 15 minutes or so. The cars already are lining up on the grid, which by and large I think has dried out. It started off this morning a full wet circuit, but it's dried out remarkably quickly actually. I think that the majority of the track is now in dry conditions. Offline, it may still be a bit damp. There's a bit of mud that's been strewn across the track that I'm sure the marshals have been busily clearing up as the morning's gone on. But this is going to be an interesting race. The green flag lap is about to get underway then for our second race of the weekend. Yesterday's race won by Matt Rino. In fact, this is the start of the race. I beg your pardon. We missed the green flag lap. We're off and racing. So I won't run you through the whole grid, but Matt Rino there, car number 27, won yesterday's race. Started on pole for this one. He leads down to the hairpin for the first time, but Nile Murray's coming around the outside, trying to get the lead back off him. Don't tangle wheels. Oh, Murray's in the gravel. Nile Murray off into the gravel trap. The man who led the championship coming into this weekend in big trouble, and now trying to come through into the race lead that's the number 25 machine of Neil McLennan. It will be Matt Rangrido that hangs on. McLennan into second place. Nico Gruber's there in third, but McLennan's back up the inside on the exit of Clark's up the inside of the chicane, and Neil McLennan takes the race lead. So McLennan leads the way. Matt Rangrido is second, but McLennan's all out of shape through the chicane. Matt will try and close back in up towards the left-hander. Hard on the brakes, inches apart. This is already turning into a thrilling, and well, a typically thrilling Formula Ford 1600 race, and with the added interest now of Nile Murray, the championship leader, down, I think, outside the top 10. We've lost the car, unfortunately, in the early going out on the far side of the circuit. We'll pick up who that is in a moment, though, because the leaders are side by side again. Matt Rangarido's back up the inside, and he's retaking the race lead. So yesterday's race winner, Matt Garrido, 4th in the points arriving here at Knockhill. Really keen to try and build on that and build a championship challenge. Is back into the race lead then. McLennan down to 2nd, Groover is 3rd. 4th position is Ross Martin, the red and yellow number 11 car, and 5th is Joey Foster. And Joey Foster was 3rd in points arriving at Knockhill. So the black car there in 5th, another one to watch for, trying to increase his points haul. Had a bit of a disappointing race yesterday, did Joey? Only 8th place in race 1. That's why he's starting a little bit down the grid for this one, because they start this race based upon their finishing positions from yesterday. So this gaggle of cars, which stretches all the way down to Nile Murray, who is just inside the top 10. He's 9th place at the moment, is Nile. There he is, the white, orange and blue car number 5, with some real work to do, as Ross Martin goes about trying to find a way through into 3rd place, as Neil McLennan goes about trying to find a way into 1st place. Side by side for the lead again, down towards the hairpin, but the inside line is defended heavily by Matt Garrido. He will hang on for the time being. Nile Murray going around the outside there of Michael Eastwell. That was for 7th position, I believe, so he might have gained a couple of places since we last checked in on him. That was only a couple of corners ago. We'll have a look when they come out of Clark's, but yes, Murray is ahead of Eastwell now, so he's 2, 4, 6, yes, he's 7th place now Murray, and going for another one maybe there on the inside of Jamie Thorburn. He thought about it, but Jamie, Scottish driver, local driver, in the blue and white 50 car, is going to do his best to try and keep one of the championship favourites at bay. The great thing about Formula 1600 racing, of course, is that in any given race, any one of a dozen or so drivers can win, and the likelihood is that that dozen or so drivers will also be fighting for the championship when we get to Donington Park at the end of the year. So it's going to be fascinating to watch how this season progresses. Over the hill they go. Here comes the challenge again from McLennan around the outside of Matt Garrido, and he's late on the brakes. Now, Nile Murray did this yesterday to get hold of the race lead. Managed to hang on to it. Oh, that's Joey Foster. Joey Foster in strife there. He's lost it going into the left-hander, and we have had the change of lead, so that outside move did work for Neil McLennan. Matt Garrido is down into 2nd place, but that is the move that Nile Murray pulled off early on in yesterday's race to take lead. Everyone's been saying all weekend long it's going to be really hard to pass here at Knockhill, because the hairpin, which is the best overtaking opportunity, is so easy to defend. You just hook the white line down the inside and then make sure you don't run wide on the exit. And so Nile Murray proved them all wrong by making a sensational move around the outside to take the race lead in yesterday's race. He eventually did fall back behind Matt Garrido to finish 2nd, but nonetheless he proved that you can overtake in interesting ways here at Knockhill. He's done plenty of overtaking in this race already, Nile Murray, because he's now remarkably into 5th place, I believe. So his next target is Jamie Thorburn, as Nico Gruber has a big look at the inside of Matt Garrido, who bravely turned in, as Nile Murray's gone round the outside again. Look, and I think he's into 4th. Yes, he is. So Nile Murray into 4th position. What a fight back this has been. He's now got to try and bridge the gap, which is about 1.5 seconds to the top 3. But the rate he's going, I really wouldn't count him out for a potential race victory here. Back down through Clark's we go, in towards the chicane once more. Into the air here on a full-blown qualifying lap, and you can see, oh no, Matt Garrido, yesterday's race winner, off into the gravel trap. He's thrown it all the way over the curbs, and that car is beached. So Matt Garrido is out of the race, and he will be absolutely fuming with himself. Just went a bit too wide, launched himself over the sausage curb, which will have been rather uncomfortable from within the cockpit, I think. But off into the gravel he went, and unfortunately, the man who was really starting to build a championship challenge here in the early stages of 2018 is out of the race. So that leaves Neil McLennan the race leader, Nico Gruber in 2nd, and Nile Murray in 3rd position. Well, it wasn't that long ago, in fact only 5 minutes ago or so, that we were talking about Nile Murray off the track and down in about 10th place, and here he is, well and truly in contention for a race victory. If he can get past Nico Gruber quickly, then he could well go after Neil McLennan, the race leader. Back through the chicane they go, stay off those sausage curves, everyone, because they are lethal, as we've just found out, to the expense of Matt Garrido, who is out of the race. Oh, and that was a mistake from Gruber, too wide there through the left-hander at Scotsman. He loses 1 place, he loses 2 places, he could lose 3 places, because Jamie Thorburn and now Ross Martin are trying to follow Nile Murray through. And that's the thing here at Knockhill, it's so close that if you make a mistake, you're probably going to lose a handful of positions rather than just the one. So Murray goes 2nd, Thorburn goes 3rd, and charging around the outside there is Michael Eastwell. He's going to try and go ahead of Ross Martin, who was not able to get himself ahead of Gruber. So that is side by side for 5th position essentially, down the sort of straight in towards the left-hander at Clark's. Martin will have the inside line and Eastwell will have the outside, and you'd imagine the red car of Ross Martin should hang on, which he does. They're being caught now by Luke Cooper. Now Luke Cooper was one of 3 different race winners last time out at Silverstone. We had the first race of the weekend won by Joey Foster, the second race won by Luke, and then race 3 went the way of Nile Murray. So we have 3 different winners from the first 3 races. We've actually had 4 different winners now from the first 4 races, with Matt Ranguido's win yesterday, and Neil McLennan, who's leading the race at the moment, has not won a race yet. So Neil McLennan looking to try and make it 5 from 5 in the Avon Tyres National Formula Ford 1600 Championship. Meanwhile, Michael Eastwell and Ross Martin are duking it out. Still is up in front of them. There goes a move attempted by Nico Gruber up the inside of James Thorburn. It is in 3rd place, and in the end had to back out of it, but Nico's already shown his nose a few times on the inside there. Nile Murray, incidentally, now he's into 2nd place, is the fastest man on the track. He's just set the fastest lap of the race, 53.374, which is actually quicker than the fastest lap yesterday. So clearly the track conditions are significantly better than they were an hour or so ago. And he was on the previous lap some 4/10 quicker than the race leader. So Nile Murray is likely to catch Neil McLennan, but with only just over half the race to go, is he going to have time to find a way through? You wouldn't bet against him though, would you? Because he's Nile Murray. He is Formula Ford 1600 superstar. But then half the grid you could put into that category, really, couldn't you? The likes of Joey Foster and Luke Cooper as well. They've all been around in Formula Ford racing for so long. Whoop, it's carving off there. That is, I think, car number 3, isn't it? Which is David Maloney, who was running down in 16th place at the time. Right, the leaders back down to Clark's. Now here's a replay of David's rather strange job, actually. The car just never really fancied going through the corner, did it? And again, he's looking at the gravel, hasn't quite dried up fully yet. He's able to sort of hot and skip his way across the top of it. Right, this is the Valiant Ford race leader. Neil McLennan has got Nile Murray right with him now, latched onto the gearbox. So the Cliff Dempsey Racing driver is going to have to get his elbows out here for the remaining 7 minutes of this race to try and hold on to the race lead. Nile Murray is with him, and of course if these two start fighting and holding each other up, then the next group of cars could well catch up, but the fight might not last that long, because look at that, Murray's already on the inside and he's about to go through into the race lead, and he just about found a Formula Ford's whip on the inside and he goes through into the lead. Can McLennan fight back on the exit? The answer is no, and so back the recovery drive is completed now for Nile Murray. He's back into the race lead where he will feel he belongs. We've got 2 cars off. One of those I think is Luke Cooper, isn't it? The red and white car on the left. The other one is car number 19 by the looks of it. No, it's not Luke Cooper, is it? It is the number 26 car, I think that was, which is traipsing its way back out onto the circuit. That was down at Clark's, so we'll wait and see who doesn't come back around at the end of this lap, but that may well have taken a few of our drivers towards the back end of the top 10 out of the equation. So Murray the leader then. Safety car. Safety car is being scrambled because one of those cars I feared was not going to get going, and indeed it didn't. And so the safety car comes out. Now we've got just under 6 minutes to go. This closes the whole field up, of course. Let's have a look at who doesn't come through, so we can try and identify fully who these cars are that went off. I have my suspicions, so I see the confirmation on the timing screen. I don't want to say too much, but Nile Murray, we know for a fact, is leading the race with Neil McLennan second, Jamie Thorburn third, Nico Gruber fourth, and Ross Martin still rounding out the top 5. And as far as those not coming through further back, actually everyone's here so far that ought to be. So Vincent J should be the next one on my timing screen to come through, which he does. David Maloney, we already knew that we'd lost, of course. Either way, we have got safety car conditions here. Now 5 minutes to go, 2/3 of the race gone. Where there is time to do it, the officials do like to add the time that gets lost under the safety car back on. So say they spend 3 minutes behind the safety car, they'll attempt to add 3 minutes onto the race duration at the end, but we'll have to wait and see when it's time for that. So yes, as we suspected, Fergus Patton is one of the cars that's gone off, car number 19, and the other one I think was car number 22, possibly, which was one driver who I don't think actually started yesterday. That's Jonathan Brown, who I believe was also in strife. Lost Matt Ranguido, we saw early on, deposited himself into the gravel trap exit chicane, and the other one was Hugo Bentley Ellis, who never started. He was a non-starter in car number 38. So brief moment of pause, brief moment to catch our breath, which is much needed, I think. There's Luke Cooper. You can see why I thought that was Luke in the gravel, because it's an identically liveried car, the red car with the white nose cone. Luke is running in 7th place at the moment. Arrived here only 11 points off the championship lead, but only managed to finish 9th yesterday, whilst championship leader Nile Murray was 2nd. So that's lost Luke Cooper quite a bit of ground in the championship, and he will be looking to try and use this safety car as an opportunity to move further forward. Michael Eastwell is his first target, and then Ross Martin. If you can get past those two, he'd be into the top 5. But that's going to be easier said than done, I think. Behind him, of course, Joey Foster, another driver there, the black 155 car, who we thought would be contending for race victories, but that spin early on in the race took paid to that, potentially. Although, of course, with this safety car, it pushes everyone back up. There's 150. That is Carter Williams in the Ray GR10. Nice mix of cars these days in National Formula 4 1600 racing, from the Van Diemen, the traditional Van Diemens, lots of Rays, from the GR10 right up to the most up-to-date cars, the GR18s being driven by Jamie Thorburn and Ross Martin. We've got the Medina Sport of Matt Margarito that was leading the race earlier on. We've got Spectrums, we've got Swifts, we've got Megals, Furmans even, Jack Wolfenden driving a Furman RFR 17. Jack actually retired in yesterday's race, started from the back and is now up into 13th place, so he's definitely a top 10 contender. So we'll see if he can make any further progress into the top 10 potentially once the race gets going again. Lights are off, I believe, on the safety car. So with 2.5 minutes now left on the clock, we may potentially be about to go back racing. We'll wait and see whether they add any time on. If they don't, it's going to be a real dash for the cash here, so to speak. And it's going to be all about the restart, and Nile Murray almost completely sideways there as he tries to get some last-minute heat into those Avon tyres. The safety car is indeed pulling in. Nile Murray is backing everybody up. In a moment he'll stand on it, which he does now. It's hard, though, to get a good restart here at Knockhill because you're accelerating uphill, so naturally the car doesn't really accelerate that quickly. The car behind, a bit more of an opportunity to respond, and that's exactly what Neil McLennan's done, and he's already alongside, and they're both sideways under braking there. That was some really heavy braking in what is a steeply downhill and a very bumpy braking zone, but McLennan was definitely quicker off the corner, so he's back in the slipstream again now as we go down towards Clark's. Murray leads, McLennan second. Don't count out Thorburn in third either to try and find a way through. Right-handed, in fact, Thorbur's right with them now. There's a bit of a gap back then to Ross Martin, who goes off. Ross Martin from 4th place off the road, as 2 of the race leaders though as well, but they've rejoined. Ross Martin though off from 4th position, and that is a disaster for him. The leaders were all over the place as well. Murray and McLennan both got wheels in the dirt. The positions didn't change hands, but McLennan lost a bit more time than Nile Murray did, and so that gap has gone out. It doesn't look as though any time's getting added on to the end of the race, so we're going to get 2 more laps to go in this 5th round of the Avon Tyres National Formula 4 Championship, and we're side by side for 2nd place, are we, with Jamie Thorburn looking to the outside line here, down towards the left-hander. McLennan skating around the braking. Can the Cliff Dempsey car stop for the corner? Just about, and the red flag is out, so the race is being stopped prematurely, unfortunately, and that can only be because of Ross Martin's car being in a dangerous position, and rather than throw a safety car and finish the race on the safety car conditions, the decision has been taken by the clerk of the course to throw the red flag and stop the race early. You can see there, Ross Martin perfectly okay, didn't make any contact with anything solid, but the car's in a dangerous place, and rather than waste time driving around behind the safety car, they have decided to throw the red flag. So that will be the end of our 5th race of the championship. That was Josh Smith there, watching on from the pit lane, former Ford winner. This is what happened. I think this was a cold tyre situation and cold brakes as well, probably after the safety car restart. Ross just locked up going into the corner and never had any chance of making the turn because it's steeply downhill and the car wants to understeer off the road anyway. And when you add in the fact that he'd locked up, he had no chance of making the corner just at the road. The leaders were having moments of their own, but as it happens, they came to naught because the red flags fly and the race is over. So Nile Murray is our race winner. He will meet up with Bryn Lucas down in the pit lane before too much longer, and we'll have a chat with him. Neil McLennan comes home 2nd, Jamie Thorburn 3rd, Nico Gruber is 4th, Michael Eastwell 5th, Luke Cooper 6th, Joey Foster was 7th. Disappointing result for both of those drivers really, and 8th place was Josh Smith. 9th place was the other Smith, which is the car number 45 of Rory Smith, and rounding out the top 10 was car 150 Carter Williams. So that was your top 10 for what was a topsy-turvy second race of the weekend for the Avon Tyres National Formula 4 Championship. Nile Murray going from 9th early on after that first corner issue to win the race from Neil McLennan, who led in the early going. So the recovery process ongoing down at Clark's. Here are the highlights of a frenetic race. Nile Murray looked as though he might be about to get the lead around the outside of the first corner, but ended up getting elbowed out into the gravel trap, and that sent him plummeting down the order, and we thought out of contention. A few others had moments as well at the first corner. One car pulled off into retirement, but thankfully everyone else by and large got through okay. The lead battle was sensational though. Matt Rangarido defending heavily there from Neil McLennan, but ran a bit too deep on the brakes, lost the lead as Joey Foster spun. It then got worse for Matt Rangarido, who spun himself out of the race altogether with a very, very high-flying curb moment at the chicane. The race continued on though, with no need for a safety car at that stage, and Nile Murray completed the recovery drive to take the race lead just after half race distance. We did then have a safety car, and on the restart, Ross Martin threw his car into the gravel trap and into retirement. The red flag therefore was brought out so as to allow the marshals the optimum chance to recover the car from a dangerous position, and Nile Murray was declared the winner. So there is Hugo Bentley-Ellis, who was the car who stopped on the first lap, car number 38. That car needs recovering, so too does Ross Martin, so too does Matt Rangarido's, and we also lost, of course, the number 19 car early on of Fergus Payton, so that car will also need to be moved. The leaders, though, in fact the rest of the field who did make it to the end of the race, have made their way down into the pit lane, where our race winner, Nile Murray, is greeted by Bryn Lucas.
Yeah, thanks so much, Andy. And with race winner Nile Murray, that was quite a race, and you had to almost do it all again at the very end.
Yeah, I really thought at the start when I was in the gravel trap, geez, I've lost this one. But yeah, no, I'm delighted. The car felt absolutely perfect. So once again, proving Team Dolan is the best team in the paddock. If Matt had an unfortunate spin there, just barely clipped the curb a bit too much in the chicane. But if he didn't, he would have probably been up there as well. So yeah, massive thanks to Bernard, Damien, Dave, all my sponsors as well. And yeah, it's just a fantastic weekend so far.
When we look at that race, you have a look at Neil was ahead of you and you're about a second behind, and all of a sudden you got a half-second leap on him, and it looked like it was all yours at that point.
Yeah, as soon as I got into second, I knew there was a bit of a gap to Neil, but I just put the head down and banged in some quick times. The guys at the pit wall were telling me what times Neil was doing, so I knew if I just kept it handy, low 53s, I'll be on him within a lap or two, and yeah, thankfully I was, and just managed to nip up the inside of him coming out of the stip and up the main straight. So yeah, delighted.
And then you've got, what, 3 minutes to go after the safety car goes back in, so you've got to do it all from scratch there, knowing you just have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, but he was putting pressure on you all the way.
Yeah, and I nearly lost it straight after the safety car as well. The safety car turned off his lights way too late. It was just, I don't know what was going on there, but yeah, I got a terrible exit from the safety car, so Neil was alongside me in the main straight, and I just completely locked up on all the stones the first corner and nearly lost it, but yeah, thankfully held on to it and managed to take the win.
So you did. We'll go and get your trophy. Well done there to Nile Murray. Well done. There you go, back to Andy.
Yeah, thanks very much, Bryn. Then Nile Murray, our race winner, and Neil McLennan in second, and Jamie Thorburn in third place. The recovery process ongoing, and I feel that the Knockhill marshals are going to have a fair bit of work to do over the course of the day. We've seen some lively racing already. Don't forget that we have another Avon Tyres National Formula 4 Championship race coming for you live later on at about 3:10. I think we can head back down to the pit lane though, where Bryn has caught up with our second place finisher.
Yeah, well, now with second and third place, surprising third place as well actually at that point. So let's go to second place first of all. That was interesting. You've maybe got that one with what, 3, 4, 5 minutes to go?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, we were really quick at the start and towards the end, but through the middle the car started to go off halfway through, but then it came back. So no, delighted with today so far. Third yesterday and a second today, so yeah, couldn't get better.
Yeah, we're talking to Nile. We were saying what was it like for you when that safety car came out, and all of a sudden you've got to do it all again, but you've got all those cars right behind you.
Yeah, I nearly lost second place with Jamie there at the chicane, but no, we got him back. But no, absolutely delighted. Couldn't be better. Yeah. Delighted.
Well done, second place. Go and get your trophy. Let's talk to Jamie. Jamie, that was, as we've heard from both drivers, from Jamie, from Nile as well in first place. That was one heck of a race.
Yeah, we started 6th and dropped to 7th on the first lap, but we had a problem with the car yesterday setup-wise, but full credit to the team, it was absolutely on fire in that one. And we got up to 3rd, and I made a few little mistakes and that just let the front 2 get away, but the safety car helped us, and I mean, it was as close as you could be to 2nd place in the last lap. Neil made a little mistake, and I got alongside him, and I was like, maybe, and then I backed out of it, luckily, because we might have gone off together, and that wouldn't have been good. So, yeah, happy enough with 3rd, considering yesterday was a bit of a disaster in the race, and I'm glad that we could show the pace that the car had. So we'll see what race 3 brings. It'll be reverse grid, so it'll be more fun, hopefully. Stay out of carnage again, and yeah, maybe pick up another trophy.
Well, why don't you go get a trophy now? Go and get that mantelpiece looking lovely. Well done there, Jamie.
Perfect, thank you very much.
There you go, all 3. Back to you then, Andy. What a race.
Yes, what a day. It's been quite an entertaining morning, hasn't it, here at Knockhill? And as I said, we'll be back with the Avon Tyres National Formula 4 1600 Championship later on today. Their third race of the weekend, their second of the day, due to kick off at around about 3:10. Well, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm sure you did. And we look forward to doing it all over again later on this afternoon. Well, the drivers are making their way onto the podium then for our first race of the day, for the Avon Tyres National Formula 4 Championship. Jamie Thorburn there on the right. On the left is Neil McLennan, handshakes with Dominic Ostrowski from BRSCC. And Diz from the Formula 4 Championship there on the left-hand side of the screen. And there is Nile Murray, our race victor in the second race of the weekend for the Formula 4s, and that means that he is the first double race winner of the year. So pretty impressive stuff there for Nile Murray, and that will go a long way towards further extending his championship lead. So great racing all round. Another race victory for Nile Murray. Can he do it later on though in our third and final race of the weekend? We'll find out at about 3:10. Well, good morning everybody and welcome to round number 5 of the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 SuperCup Championship. 2018 has already provided us with plenty of thrills and spills. Racing at Silverstone last time out was incredibly intense and we're expecting more of the same here today at Knockhill. The cars making their way around on their green flag lap, and so it gives me a chance to quickly update you on a few things that have gone on. Yesterday we had a race for the MX-5 SuperCup that was won by the reigning champion Luke Herbert from pole position, but that doesn't really do the race justice because it was very, very close indeed between Luke himself and his teammate Aiden Hills, who finished second. James Blake Baldwin, former champion, was third. Johnny Greensmith was fourth, and Jack Harding, who was the championship leader arriving here at Knockhill, was only fifth, which means that we had quite a bit of shuffling around in the points. That means that we have a grid for this one that is based on the second fastest lap times from qualifying yesterday, so it's a slightly different grid that we'll have, and there you can see it is still Herbert on pole, but alongside him is going to be Carl Garnett in the orange and white number 19 car, so that is your front row of the grid. Luke set a few very quick lap times that would have been good enough for pole position in qualifying yesterday, and he said that qualifying was all important because it is tough to pass around here. We'll wait and see though. We saw plenty of overtaking in yesterday's race. Third on the grid is James Blake Baldwin, and fourth is Aiden Hills, and he was a bit miffed because yesterday he felt that that was his best chance to win a race. He was starting second alongside his teammate on the front row of the grid, and he knew that for this race he was going to have to start fourth. Even more overtaking to do, and we know overtaking isn't easy, so this is going to be a tricky race for Aiden, but we'll see what he can do from fourth on the grid. Aiden was fifth in the championship arriving here at Knockhill though, so that second place yesterday did his championship hopes no harm at all. But if you're going to win this championship, you're going to have to do something about Luke Herbert, who was the champion last year. He had a tricky Silverstone though. He didn't actually manage to win a race all weekend. Had a best finish of second in race 3 because he had some mechanical dramas at the start of race 1, which really put him on the back foot for the rest of the weekend. So Luke Herbert came to Knockhill, not really, he was fourth in the points, but some 16 points or so off the championship lead, so he's really looking to try and kick-start his championship here in Scotland. Well, the cars are lined up on the grid. It's a 20-minute race ahead of us, and the lights go out. We're away and racing. Who makes the best start from the front row of the grid? It's fairly evenly matched, actually, but with Luke Herbert on the inside line, you'd imagine he'll get into the first corner first. Yes, he will, and in fact, James Blake Baldwin is muscling his way through into second place as well, but around the outside of everyone is going Aiden Hills. Did they get through cleanly? Bit of paint is traded. Hills risks getting hung out to dry, but they all did a really good job there to leave each other just enough room. And so the order is Herbert from Blake Baldwin from Hills, the top 3. Garnett is there in fourth, battling away with early championship leader Jack Harding, who's all out of shape there as he got 2 wheels on the dirt on the running towards Clark's. He's back up the inside of Carl Garnett. He's trying to take fourth place back away, wheel to wheel into chicane. Now you can't go side by side from here. That is guaranteed to end in tears. And Harding on the inside. Well, they are going to go side by side, but Harding leaps his way through. So Harding goes fourth, Garnett fifth. Sixth place there is Steve Roberts, and he's looking up the inside now as well, ahead of the Zebra livery car of Colin Bysouth. And then Johnny Greensmith, one to watch for as he tries to work his way through from a strangely lonely starting position. Out onto the pit straight we go again. So they've started how they need to go on here, and Aiden Hills is going about doing this overtaking that he said would be so difficult pre-race. He's going to the outside now of James Blake Baldwin. He's late, very late on the brakes, skating around. He tries to get the car stopped for the hairpin, but James on the inside line for the time being hangs on. Now the more that this group behind start tripping over each other, the further away Luke Herbert might be able to get, and if he can get to within sort of a second or so ahead of the rest of the field, then he'll break the toe. They won't have the slipstream, and they won't be able to stay with him all that easily, so they're really going to have to work hard then to match his lap times and challenge him for the race lead. You can already see Herbert pulling away. It was half a second at the start of the lap. It's probably gone out slightly with the result of the side-by-side antics behind. And these 3 cars, James Blake Baldwin in second, Aiden Hills in third, and Jack Harding in fourth, are all so busy squabbling with each other that they could risk letting the race leader escape up the road. Through Duffus they go, lots of curb used by the leader, not so much by the next group of cars though, but now the slipstream starts to take effect. They all move over to the left-hand side of the road to start defending. To the outside will go Aiden Hills though. He's already proven that he's not afraid to hang it out around the outside line here into the hairpin, and he has got his nose in front under braking. The trouble is, though, once you commit to that outside line, you can see that Jack Harding just filled the gap on the inside, and so since that move didn't work for Aiden Hills, on the exit of the corner, Jack Harding is able to get alongside him, so they will run wheel to wheel now down towards Clark's, but Aiden Hills was able just about to find a slipstream from the car in front and hold on to the place behind. Colin Bysouth, look, oh, at the inside, oh no, of Carl Garnett, they come together, there's more contact, Garnett's off, well and truly off, he might even find the wall, yes he does. Oh, what a shame for Carl Garnett. That was a golden opportunity for him to get one of his best ever results by starting on the front row, and it's just not worked. Here's what happened. Bysouth was up the inside, he hit the curb, he was committed, and the car just drifted out wide, and then just got tangled together. Garnett was out of control, trying to save it, didn't have enough room, because by that point there were three abreast, because Johnny Greensmith was also up the inside of the pair of them, and there was just a little bit of contact that spat Garnett off the road. Right, back with the lead, or the second place battle, I should say, as Aiden Hills is back around the outside, and this time he's going to try something different, get his elbows out, crowd James Blake Baldwin down to the inside line. He gets elbowed out onto the dirt though, so now Jack Harding once again buys into it, and Colin Bysouth is off now. Well, Carl Garnett will say that's retribution for having him off a lap ago, but Carl Garnett is off into the gravel. I didn't spot where that was, but that could be deemed a dangerous position. If it is, they may require a safety car to go out. You can see Carl Garnett still trying to dig his way out of the grass. He's been there for a lap and a half now, and he still hasn't got moving. Leaders, though, make their way down to the chicane. Now, a safety car, which is coming out now. The safety car has been scrambled, and that is the last thing that Luke Herbert wanted to see, because he was 1.4 seconds up the road and wasn't having to get involved in this titanic battle going on behind. Well, all that changes now. That is Bysouth. I still can't quite figure out where that is. It might be up at Scots, or down at Scotsman, I should say, possibly, which is just down the hill from the chicane, but he's in the gravel. Oh, it's the first corner of hearing, so he's gone straight on, presumably on the brakes, and got beached into the gravel. So this will be the replay then. We were focusing on that battle for second, and then screech of tyres, and yeah, he deposits himself straight in the gravel trap down at the hairpin. It's all too easy to do that. You arrive there very, very quickly indeed. Speeds over 100 miles an hour. You're braking downhill. It's bumpy. It's probably still a bit damp and greasy in some areas, and it's all too easy to lock a front brake. And once you do that, it's almost impossible to recover from that. The Knockhill Marshals, living up to their reputation for being some of the most efficient in the world, have already got that car out of the gravel. The gravel is now being strewn right across the track. That's going to be just what the race leaders want to see when they arrive down there at race speed in a lap or so. And he's continuing to shake the gravel out from the car all over the racetrack. He should pull to the left here, though, out of harm's way. No, he's going to continue on, presumably round to the pit lane. There is a bit of damage to the car. Presumably that comes from the contact that he had between Garnett and Greensmith earlier on. This does give me a chance to give you the race order, though. Luke Herbert leads, James Blake Baldwin second, Aiden Hills third, and Jack Harding fourth. We've been following that battle. Fifth place is Johnny Greensmith. Sixth is Nick Dunn. Nick Dunn having a good run in the Clapham North liveried car. Graham Roberts is seventh. Eighth place then for Simon Baldwin, who is stepbrother to James Blake Baldwin. Then ninth place for Sam Tatler, and rounding out the top 10 is Jack Sycamore. So Jack Sycamore's been able to make his way up the order slightly from outside the top 10. We lost Carl Garnett. He's the only car not running technically, because Colin Bysouth's car did get recovered from the gravel, but whether Colin is able to continue in the race or not, we'll have to wait and see. You can see him in the background actually there, the number 11 car making his way back around onto the tail of the Crocodile, which is going to have to spend another lap behind the safety car, unfortunately, because they're now dealing with Carl Garnett's car that's off up at Scotsman, after the contact that he had earlier on with Colin Bysouth. So, you know, we went through the entire race day at Silverstone last time out without a single safety car, but now that we're at this much tighter and more technical circuit where there are gravel traps and there's grass that's turned to mud with the overnight rain, and there are tyre barriers in relatively close proximity, it's only to be expected, I guess, that we're going to have one or two hold-ups. Colin Bysouth is heading into the paddock actually, so his race is done. Of course, he received outside assistance anyway, so I don't think he would have been allowed to continue anyway. He pulls into Park Fair. Maybe interesting to see whether maybe Brink could have a word with him, because I'm sure he's got a few stories to tell after that race, although I anticipate we may be going racing again this time, because Carl Garnett's car we saw had been recovered. We know that Colin Bysouth's car is recovered because we just saw it driving through the pit lane, and I don't think there's anyone else that we've lost, so we've still got 22 cars running in this fifth round of the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Super Cup. And Luke Herbert, well, let's see, yesterday that race victory may have actually given him the championship lead, or if not, it was very close. If he can win again today, that almost certainly will give him the championship lead. So the lights are out on the safety car, and Luke will have that in mind now for sure, that he needs to try and get a good restart and bag these points while he can, because Silverstone proved that even though he's carrying the number one, even though he's the reigning champion, even though he's the one that everyone's trying to beat and everyone's expecting to go and win the championship again this year, to an extent at least, it's not going to be that easy, and things can happen. There's Carl Garnett, and he can now continue his conversation with Colin Bysouth in the pit lane that they were having out on the track earlier on. The lights were out on the safety car. The car, of course, is now coming to the pit lane, so we are away and racing once more, with Luke Herbert now having James Blake Baldwin latched right on the rear bumper. Blake Baldwin's had a good restart here. He's built a bit of a gap over Aiden Hills, which means that he might decide to try and send one down the outside to the hairpin. It doesn't quite work though. Through the left hand to go, Hills in third, Harding fourth, fifth place is still Johnny Greensmith. No change in the order down through the hairpin on this restart lap. We've got 11 minutes and 45 seconds left on the clock, and so we still have over half of this race to go. Through Clark, it's such a difficult corner. You're braking on a turn with two wheels on the curb, which is not the grippiest part of the place to be. Oh, and Aiden Hills and Johnny Greensmith are both off the road. Jack Harding will go through into third, and it looks as though that's Nick Dunn who will go through into fourth. So Hills is down to fifth, and I didn't quite see where Greensmith rejoined then, but how many drivers have we seen doing that through Clarks as you plummet down the hill? The car gets light, and if you've taken too much curb on the apex, you're going to get sent straight out into the gravel trap, and we've seen it time and time again over all of the races this weekend. Right, leaders back across the line. That's really taken some pressure off the top three now, who have pulled quite a gap over, yes, it is Nick Dunn, who's gained 2 places out of all of that into fourth, and fifth place for Aiden Hills. Greensmith dropped to seventh, I can tell you. So Steve Roberts, former BMW Compact Cup champion, in fact double champion in that series, is up into sixth position. And Steve Roberts in his second season of Mazda MX-5 racing, thoroughly enjoying himself and really enjoying being closer to the sharp end of the field this year. Aiden Hills now draws himself back alongside Nick Dunn, and once more Aiden is the man who's got all the overtaking to do. That was a textbook manoeuvre though, as long as he doesn't run wide on the exit. No, because it's Nick Dunn this time who goes wide, and he'll lose the positions he just gained. In fact, he's going to lose 3 spots there, because Roberts, Baldwin and Johnny Greensmith have all gone through, and in fact he's lost another place there to Sam Tatler. Sam Tatler in the black car with the fluorescent yellow highlights, because he just back of shot there. He is now up into 8th position, and he started quite some way back. Either that or he had some dramas early on, if you would expect Sam to be well inside the top 10. Back out of Duffus they go again, onto the pit straight. Gary Townsend there we've got a glimpse of. The fight for second is starting to hot up. This is just what Luke Herbert wants to see, because now James Blake Baldwin is having to really defend his second place from Jack Harding. Out through the hairpin they go, down the straight towards Clarkson. Harding is going to try this switchback manoeuvre. He's carried more speed off the turn. He'll have the inside line potentially for Clarks, but we've seen this end in tears before. They're going to arrive there side by side, but is James Blake Baldwin going to back out of it or try and hold sway on the outside? He does back out of it. Harding goes through, but now Blake Baldwin gets the switch back and they'll run side by side. Oh, bit of a biff and a bang on the way towards the chicane. Harding on the outside, Blake Baldwin on the inside, and James sensibly backed out of it, because if you try and run side by side from the chicane, that's not likely to end well. So Jack Harding has done a really good job here, finished 5th in yesterday's race, was a bit frustrated with that, just said he didn't really get the start that he wanted, and he said it's going to be impossible to overtake, but I think we're seeing right in front of us now that that is not the case. You can overtake, you just have to get a bit inventive with it. From the start finish line they go again. Hands out of the cockpit, because we're going safety car again. Why are we going safety car? I don't know. There's nothing that we've seen. Simon Baldwin, we believe we might have lost. He's starting to plummet down the timing screen. Where we've lost him, I don't know. But we've also lost the number 6 machine by the looks of it, which is Tom Parker, who didn't finish yesterday either. Simon Baldwin was slipping down the timing screen because he has a transponder glitch, so he wasn't the reason for the safety car. So Simon Baldwin fans breathe. He's still there in 6th position, but it's the number 6 machine of Tom Parker that we've lost, and that looked like it was at Clark's here, wasn't it, that he'd gone backwards into the gravel. So we've got 8.5 minutes to go. Still time for us to get this cleared. On average, it seems that when the safety car is called to deal with one car stricken in a gravel trap, it takes about 2 laps behind the safety car, 2 to 3 laps to get it fixed. Out into the pit lane has come car number 28, and that is Christian White into the pits. And Christian was 14th yesterday, former Toyota MR2 race winner. and the car is looking rather second-hand, not just muddy, but there's a couple of dents in it as well, so I wonder whether maybe he's had some contact somewhere that's done some damage to the car. Find out if we can, but the safety car has been called upon once again, second time in this BRSCC Mazda MX-5 SuperCup race. The safety car has been required. You get to see some of the cars towards the tail end of the field. Darren Stapleton now is the last runner in car number 44. Make their way back out onto the straight once again, and Luke Herbert will have to do this all over again. He didn't make a bad restart last time. It was about as good as could be hoped for. What helped him was Harding and Blake Baldwin battling for second, but of course Jack Harding's now into second place, and he and Aiden Hills have been by far the two most aggressive drivers when they're overtaking. They've not been afraid to throw one up the inside where maybe the driver they're overtaking doesn't expect it, and that has created some really good racing. But if Harding decides to start getting physical with the race leader Luke Herbert, Luke has to be careful because he can't really afford another bad finish, because of course, yes, you get to drop a score over the course of the season, but Luke already has had, well, that 7th place finish in race 1 at Silverstone. I know it's not a bad finish considering he started from the back of the grid, but it's not a Luke Herbert finish, and so he really doesn't want to end up getting, you know, knocked off the track in this race and then having to count this as his drop score. So it'll be interesting to see how he deals here with some of the aggressive drivers behind him. James Blake Baldwin is not backwards and coming forwards either, and we just saw him lose that second place to Jack Harding. He'll be keen to get that back, I'm sure. So the car of Parker, Tom Parker, is taken out to the gravel trap again. And as I said, that's the second time this weekend, unfortunately, that his race has come to a premature end. And so they make their way back down towards the end of another lap. Now, are we going to go green this time or next time? I suspect it will probably be next time. Yes, I don't think they've had enough warning to the safety car driver to put the lights off on this occasion. Jack Harding there in second place, championship contender definitely, and we've said this about him for several seasons now, but for whatever reason things don't seem to come together for him. Last year Jack came into the season really feeling like for the first time he was going to be a contender for the championship, and then got an exclusion from a race for, I believe it was technical infringement, really early on in the season at Silverstone, and that meant that with an exclusion, you can't count an exclusion as a drop score. So essentially he already found himself 100 points back, which you score 100 points for winning a race in Mazda MX-5 SuperCup, which is something that you need in UK racing at least. And so that exclusion really meant that he was out of contention before the season had ever really started, and Jack started to lose a bit of faith last year, I think, and started to wonder, you know, whether it was ever going to happen. But this year, I spoke to him yesterday actually in the paddock, and he said to me that, you know, his goal has to be to just finish the races, not get involved in any accidents on track that could damage the car and put him out, or get himself maybe sort of involved in some judicial procedures. Obviously make sure that the car doesn't fail any technical scrutineering issues, and as long as that happens, he knows he's got the taste to win races and to finish on the podium with the regularity that you need to win a championship. It's just now about beating that man Luke Herbert, who is so hard to shake out of the race lead. Of course, one of the things about Mazda MX-5 racing is no one ever runs off into the distance and wins the races by a mile. Luke never has an easy win, but he's just very good at getting to the front and staying at the front. He knows how to defend, he knows when to defend, so as to hold on to the position without actually holding himself up, and that's going to make Jack Harding's job very difficult. Well, that was interesting. Luke Herbert really slowing the pack up, and Jack was trying to stay as close behind him as possible, and I think he actually ran into the back of the race leader there, but Luke has gone early here. He's already hit the accelerator, and once you speed up, you're not allowed to slow down again. So this is it now. This is the restart, and we will have 3 3/4 minutes to go, so not long to go at all for Jack Harding to try and move back through into second place, back through into the race lead, excuse me. He's in the slipstream. Herbert is going to have to defend, but Harding's got a bit of a gap back to Blake Baldwin behind. He goes to the outside, back to the inside. That's not going to work though. Luke Herbert skating under braking. Watch out for Blake Baldwin. He's in there too as they descend on there. In fact, Aiden Hills at the inside of Blake Baldwin looks to try and get third place away, but the momentum is on the outside line there through the hairpin. So even though Aiden got to the inside, it was the speed was with Blake Baldwin. You can see actually Blake Baldwin is now caught up to Jack Harding. He's closer to Harding, and Harding is the leader. Harding defends into Clark's. Down the hill they go, and Blake Baldwin does seem good through there. Remember, he got up the inside of Harding a few laps ago as well. He's weaving around, trying to defend Aiden Hills too, though, which is making his job all the harder. It's always really hard being in the middle of a group of cars because you're trying to attack and you want to focus on getting past the car in front, but if you go for a move that doesn't work, then you're all of a sudden under real attack from the cars behind. Really has changed in that sequence of corners because Blake Baldwin has fallen back. He's holding up the cars behind him as well, and that's meant that Jack Harding is actually as close to Luke Herbert as he's ever been now. Across the line we go, 2.5 minutes still to go. Harding back to the outside line, the rest of the field stream through. There's Sam Tatler battling with Nick Dunn further back. A few little bits of jockeying for position, but no actual moves made. Sam Tatler and Nick Dunn side by side, but I think Sam holds on to the position as the leaders now make their way down towards Clark's again. But you can see what I mean there. Of course, Harding had that brief moment where he wasn't under any pressure from James Blake Baldwin behind, so he went for a move. It didn't work, but that little bit of side-by-side racing held himself and Luke Herbert up sufficiently that Blake Baldwin was able to close in. Fastest lap, incidentally, has gone away of Aiden Hills earlier on, a 1:0.094, which is about half a second slower than they were doing yesterday. The majority of the field yesterday were able to put in sub 1 minute lap times during the race, but I think this race, with it being slightly more disruptive with the safety cars and whatnot, the pace not quite as high. Onto the pit straight, there's Johnny Greensmith in the car number 2, former Porsche champion and MX5 champion before that. Then he went over to race Porsche Boxsters, and he had success in that series with 2 championships. And now he's trying to recreate that success in Mazda MX5 racing. It's proving difficult though. This is one of the hardest championships in the UK to win because it is so competitive and there's such strength in depth. And so if you have a bad day, you're not going to finish 4th or 5th, you're probably going to finish outside the top 10 because the quality of the drivers snapping your heels is good enough that they can take advantage of your mistakes. And we see that in the races. I mean, if one of these new drivers were to make a mistake, he would lose 4 or 5 places instantly. And that adds to the pressure, especially on a circuit like Knockhill where it's so easy to make a mistake. James Blake Baldwin, incidentally, just as I was saying, no one had gone sub 1 minute. Both he and Aiden Hills did on the previous lap, and so James Blake Baldwin has set the fastest lap. But through the second half of the lap, he just doesn't seem to have the pace of the leading 2, who are able to just pull away slightly, leaving that bit of a gap back to the 3rd place car, which means that Harding is free to attack again down into the hairpin. The trouble with Harding is that Luke Herbert is always going to hold the inside line down into the hairpin. And so really Harding is going to have to try the switchback, which is what he's trying. There was a bit of Morse code tapped onto the back of the leader's car there, but no real damage done, just sort of trying to time that switchback manoeuvre to absolute perfection. But it is so hard to do because the road falls away from you and the car just wants to understeer. Even though these are rear-wheel drive sports cars, the car still wants to understeer out to the edge of the road. And that means that switchback manoeuvre is quite difficult. This, incidentally, is the final lap of the race, by the way, because the time runs out now, and so is Jack Harding going to be able to find a way through? This is probably his last chance to do so. I don't think he's really close to restoration lunge, and Jack, remember, he's thinking points, he's thinking consistency, he's thinking championship. There's no point in going for a lunge on the last lap that ends up taking the pair of you out. All that means then that Luke Herbert comes out of the final corner, celebrating already as he comes to the finish line to win round number 5 of the Mazda MX-5 SuperCup 2018, his 2nd win of the year. Jack Harding, though, is back on the podium and he's racking up the points with every race that goes by. James Blake Baldwin is 3rd, Aiden Hills is 4th, Steve Roberts comes home in 5th, ahead of Simon Baldwin 6th, Johnny Greensmith 7th, Nick Dunn was 8th, he got himself ahead of Jack Sycamore on the last lap, who slipped down to 9th, and it was Gary Townsend from outside the top 10 on the grid who comes through to finish in 10th place. Sam Tatler therefore lost ground. He was running about 8th a few laps ago, finishes 11th. 12th place for Alex King, 13th place for the number 62 machine of Will Stevenson, 14th was James Kell, 15th Alec Livesley, 16th place for the 73 car, which was Tarka, and then Lewis Carter in 16th, 17th Aaron Stapleton, 18th place was Rutter, 19th for Mike Swarbrick, 20th for George Grant, 21st was Tom Parker, so we saw he did rejoin the track after making a pit lane visit earlier on, after he brought out the 2nd of the safety cars, and he was the last finisher, so Christian White, Colin Weishaupt and Carl Garnett did not make the flag. So the cars make their way back into the pit lane, now head down towards the collecting area at the end of the pit lane into Parc Fermé, where Bryn will be on standby to chat to certainly our race leader, and if we've got time, it looks like we might do, because the marshals and their broomsticks are appearing back onto the circuit again to clear up the mess left behind after that race. So we may get a chance to talk to one or two drivers down in Parc Fermé. That race win for Luke Herbert will now, I can confirm, give him the championship lead, and Jack Harding, I believe, will stay second. So it is looking as though this season's going to turn into a fight between those two, but sooner or later Jack is going to have to start beating Luke. He can't keep finishing second behind him. He needs to start beating Luke and taking the race victories. He's got race 3 to come later on though, and that is his opportunity to do so. James Blake Baldwin, also a consistent start to the season for him. He was third in that race. Still looking for his, looking for his second win of the year, of course, because he won the third race at Silverstone, did James Blake Baldwin. But there is Luke Herbert, the helmet's off, he catches a breath, and he is about to have a chat with Bryn Lucas.
Well, I am here with a race winner. That was a race. It was like a pack of wolves, a one-man pack of wolves behind you all the way.
Yeah, and every time the safety car came out, the person behind me changed. So frustrating when you pull 2 seconds. You think, oh, I can look after the tyres for race 3, maintain the gap, try and get the fastest laps. That's worth 2 points. And then, yeah, safety car after safety car. It's quite frustrating as a driver, but, brilliant race. Wouldn't be without my sponsors, SRC Recycling, Digital Water Sports, ACC Tyres, Big Earn Wealth Management, and A&S Tooling. We've all brought it together to get these 2 wins.
Well, you say a race, but the BRSCC always have a lot of exciting races when it comes to the Mazdas. Just talk to us what it was like having Jack behind you, and the fact that every time you went into that first turn, that tight left-hander, he was really all over. You had to be quite defensive, but also be on the attack. It's a strange dichotomy going on there.
I mean, throughout the weekend, we've been quickest in the sectors through the windy bits and slowest over the hill. And I've put that down because I've been at the front, they've been getting my toe. So I may break away a car 2 or 2 length. And then coming out up that hill, up that slog, when he's in my toe, they're just all over me, buddy. So I had to defend every lap when they were close enough. It does make it hard work as a driver, but, it wouldn't be Mazda racing if we weren't nose to tail all the way around. So, I'd rather it was that way than just be driving off.
Well, you've got number 1 on your car. It's not like you're not used to being at the head of the pile and leading the way. So it's something that luckily you have that experience for.
Yeah, I've got 8 years experience car racing, and one thing you've got to do is maintain the lead. That's the most important part. If you can overtake and get in the front, if you can't hold it, there's no point. So yeah, it's great fun.
Great fun, and another trophy. Well done.
Yeah, thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Bryn. Luke Herbert there down in Parc Fermé, a race winner in round number 5 of the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Super Cup. It was a very entertaining race indeed, that Luke was able to lead from lights to flag, but again, the racing behind him was incredibly intense. Aiden Hill's not afraid to go around the outside of people, made a brave move to gain ground initially off the start into 3rd place. He engaged in battle with James Blake Baldwin and Jack Harding in the early going, which allowed the race leader to pull away. There was then contact between Colin Bysouth and Carl Garnett. Garnett was spat off into the barriers and into retirement, and that would bring out the first of 2 safety cars for the race. It also happened just a lap before his assailant, Colin Bysouth, deposited himself in the gravel trap at the hairpin. The safety car was called for, after which Luke Herbert immediately started building up a margin again over the squabbling pair of Harding and Blake Baldwin. They ran side by side, making small bits of contact on a few occasions before a second safety car was called. On the restart, it was Harding applying the pressure as intensely as he could to the race leader Luke Herbert, but Luke, the veteran, was able to hang on. Well, a fantastic first race of the day for the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Super Cup. Their second race is coming up a little bit later on in our second online live stream at about 3:30, and that one is set to be equally as entertaining. So we really hope that you'll be able to join us for that one, and we'll see what further twists and turns the 2018 BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Super Cup has in store for us. everyone, and welcome to our second race of the weekend for the BRSCC Toyo Tyres Porsche Championship. Cars lining up on the grid in what's turning into actually quite good conditions. It's turning into a nice day out there today. Who'd have thought it when we woke up this morning to torrential rain and a very, very wet circuit indeed. It's the second race of the weekend for the Toyo Tyres Porsche Championship. They had a race yesterday afternoon, a race that was won by Adam Southgate, and they start this race the way in which they finished that one. So it's Southgate on pole from James Coleman alongside. The red lights go out and we are away and racing. We've got two classes of car out there, the Boxsters and the 924s. We'll cover that as the race goes on, but it's wheel to wheel for the race lead, dropping down in towards the hairpin for the first time, and Southgate on the inside, the grey, orange and white car. James Coleman trying to go right round the outside of him though. That didn't work. Up into third place looks like it's Kevin Molyneux, who finished third in yesterday's race. That's the yellow machine as they make their way now down towards Clark's for the first time. Fourth place I think is still going to be Gary Lawrence. And then side by side behind him there, that's Nick Bartz and Nick Hull going side by side. Nick Hull had a spin late on in yesterday's race, which forced him into retirement. Out of Clark's, into towards the chicane they go. And everyone minding their P's and Q's. In fact, Gary Lawrence, I thought, was up there in fourth place. That is Gary Lawrence, the black car with the grey bumper. The bumper's not supposed to be grey. I think he's replaced that after yesterday's race. And in behind him then is Christian Young, who was a non-finish yesterday. The story of yesterday's race really was these two escaping up the road, as they're doing now, and doing battle over the course of the entire 20 minutes of racing. They were never separated by more than a few car lengths. Traffic came into play on a few occasions, and so James Coleman will be keen to try and make the move stick before they hit the back markers, because it was James who struggled a little bit more to get past some of the back markers than Southgate did. So we'll see whether James is able to prise the door open at any point. Third place for Molyneux, fourth is Porter, fifth is Nick Hull, sixth place then for Nick Bartz, seventh place for Christian Young, and eighth place for Gary Lawrence, who's really not had a good start. Ninth is the number 25 machine, which is Kevin Ludford. And then leading the 94s, I can tell you, is going to be the number 9 car of Gavin Johnson, who was second in yesterday's race to Phil Waters, but Phil Waters has dropped from first to third. So the leaders overall turn their way back through the left-hander onto the straight, and James Coleman is closer than ever this time. Just comes out onto the pit straight, and Southgate immediately has to move over to try and defend. Coleman looking to the outside, he's thinking about going back to the inside as well though. It's going to be last of the late breakers here on the into the hairpin, and Coleman is later on the brakes, but is he too late on the brakes? They almost trade some paint, and still it is going to be Adam Southgate who hangs on, but that was the first real attempt, 2 cents, for James Coleman to find a way through. He just set the fastest lap of the race, 57.796, about 4/10 or so that is off the fastest lap that Southgate set yesterday, but still early on in this race of course. So two classes of car. We've got the race Boxsters, which are sort of state-of-the-art Porsche Boxster racing machines, still converted from road cars, but they've got the front aero there. You can see the front splitter on the car, the rear wing as well to help create downforce, and then you've got the much more production-based 924 class for Porsche 924s, the venerable Porsche 924, and they have their own battles, which we'll check in with a little bit later on, as and when this battle calms down, if it calms down, because it didn't yesterday, and I don't really anticipate it changing today. They're both so evenly matched, these two, and you sense that even if Coleman could get through, he probably wouldn't be able to pull away, because there's nothing to choose performance-wise between them. Again, he pulls to the outside. He's got no choice really but to go to the outside on the off chance that he can force Adam Southgate to outbrake himself, but they both know that they're going to be braking at more or less the same point on the circuit, so it's not going to be all that easy for them for Coleman to make the move there. And unlike in some of the other races we've seen today, where you can sort of go for a lunge and get your elbows out, you can't really do that in a Porsche because they're quite susceptible to damage. Here is our battle with the 1994s. This is actually for second place. Phil Waters has just got himself ahead of the white numbers 41 car of Carl Rossin, so that has been a change for second in the 1994 class. We'll now watch with interest Phil Waters' lap times to see if he can close in on Gavin Johnson, who he beat to the race victory yesterday by less than a second. They are 3 seconds apart as we speak, but we'll see whether he's able to start bridging that gap over the next few laps or so. See, the 94s not quite as quick, they don't have the aerodynamics, they are most definitely more of a production class of car. Leaders down through the hairpin, they are already getting close to putting a lap, I believe, on Darren Constant, who is running at the back of the 94 field. See him up ahead, locking the brakes. So he's pushing on still, but the race Boxsters are just significantly quicker than the 94s. I also think that it's possible that Darren Constance had some sort of drama early on, because he's fallen quite some way behind the leading contenders. You can see that Southgate's built a bit more of a gap now over James Coleman. That's because he set the fastest lap last time round, 57.606. Dive past Darren Constance, who I see is missing a rear windscreen in that 94, which is interesting. But it happened yesterday at some point. Put some sort of metal plate over it. Leaders have passed him with ease and make their way down the straight. This is the final third that was about to come through there. That was Kevin Molyneux. That's all a bit closer, actually. Molyneux is third, Nick Porter fourth, and Nick Hull fifth. And also Nick Bartz is in that group as well. So you've got a four-way fight for third place that is starting to develop a little bit further back. But the leaders are comfortably clear already. They're 5.2 seconds clear of the third place battle. Yesterday, just to give you an idea of their domination, the gap between first and second was 2/10. That's how close they were. But then the gap between second and third, James Coleman and Kevin Molyneux, was a further 22 seconds. So those two really were in a class of their own yesterday. This is that battle I was mentioning earlier on. Number 33 is Andrew Porter. He's running in fourth place. And number 4, the Union flag livery car, is Nick Hull, running in fifth. And Nick, who has had his fair share of dramas. He's been racing in this championship for many a year now. Nick is always entertaining to watch, because you never quite know what's going to happen to him next. He did have that rotation in the first race yesterday. He has a little look on the inside there. No, can't get through on the brakes into the Taylor's hairpin. Pulled a bit more of a gap now over the silver car of Nick Bartz, who was fifth in yesterday's race. Actually, Nick Bartz, he had a pretty decent run to a top 5 finish yesterday in what I believe might be his first appearance in the series, actually. I don't remember whether he was out for their opening round of the championship. No, he wasn't. That opening round of the championship was quite some time ago, actually, at the end of March at Alton Park. Both races won by Adam Southgate from Alex Stocker in second place, but Alex Stocker not here this weekend. Side by side here, though, Kevin Molyneux not with a good run out of the final corner. He's up alongside him immediately. Comes the 33 car of Andrew Porter. Porter looks to the outside line in towards the hairpin. And can he make that move stick? He's going to try and go right round the outside. It's very dirty out there. You can see the dust and the dirt and the gravel and the marbles from the tyres. This is all closing things back up though now, because Nick Hull is once more a part of this, and this has now become therefore the fight for third position. That's a shame. That's Darren Constant, who is off, I think, on the exit of Scotsman. So we'll see a replay. Might have been self-inflicted in that. There was a race boxer, which possibly was Gary Lawrence, who wasn't far away from him, and if that car stuck, that could bring out the safety car potentially, which is a shame, because it will put this battle for third place on hold. But for the time being, they're racing on. No, they're not. The safety car is coming out, and the hands come out of the cockpit there. Kevin Molyneux gesticulating to the cars behind. I don't think Nick Bartz was fully aware of the safety car situation, because he was pulling out to try and overtake Nick Hull then, but he now does drop back into line. All of this means, of course, that 10 and a bit second lead that Adam Southgate had, well, Adam Southgate and James Coleman had, will now disappear. The other thing it means is that because they were getting quite close to the back of the 924 field, and they were about to start having to lap the slower 924s, and that was what yesterday caused a few dramas with Adam Southgate and James Coleman trying to battle for the race win, of course, and also trying to make their way through the slower cars. But that now may not happen, because with the safety car coming out, of course, not only will all of the race boxsters bunch up together, but the 924s will do the same, and they'll close in onto the tail of the Boxster class. So it is likely that they may not, if they do catch the back markers, it won't be until later on in the race. So that takes an element of pressure off the leaders. The lead gap, incidentally, really wasn't growing all that much when we were watching the fight for third. So they had separated themselves slightly when the safety car came out, but I think that's just because James Coleman had backed off. In fact, on the lap that the safety car came out, Adam Southgate set a new fastest lap, which was a 57.368, which is fractionally like 1.5 hundredths of a second quicker than he went yesterday. So Southgate is now starting to put the hammer down, and if he doesn't have to deal with the traffic, then he can continue running in theory at that sort of pace for the rest of the race. We'll see how that pans out. The team's friends and family watch on with interest from the pit wall. The drivers will be frustrated at the safety car situation, but we're just over half the race to go. 10 minutes and 15 seconds left on the clock in this 20-minute race for Toyo Tyres Porsche Championship. So it's not the end of the world, and as we've seen all day, the marshals here very good at getting the cars extricated from precarious positions as quickly as possible, and they have been able, generally speaking, to limit the safety car laps to sort of 2 or 3 laps each time it's been out on circuit. So the Honda Civic Type R safety car, as nice as it is to look at, hopefully won't be spending all that much more time out on the circuit. So Southgate leads the way, Coleman second, Molyneux third, fourth is Porter, fifth is Hull, sixth is Nick Bartz. He is the grey car there with the red wheels, as I said, making his debut in the championship. A championship that was being led by Adam Southgate already, courtesy of his double race victory at Alton Park. He's now added to that, of course, with the race victory yesterday, whereas James Coleman arrived here down in 7th because he had a bit of a disaster with a non-finish at Alton Park. So James really looking to try and ignite his championship campaign. Well, the marshals have outdone themselves this time, because I thought we might end up with another lap of safety car. That's not the case. The lights are off on the pace car and it's heading into pit lane. So Southgate and Coleman bunch up together once more, and Kevin Molyneux in third will be looking to try and join in the fun as well. I spoke to him on the podium after yesterday's race, and he said basically words to the effect of, we can't keep up with those top two, they're in a class of their own. Well, let's see if that's the case on the restart as Adam Southgate floors the throttle. The Porsche Boxster roars up towards the start-finish line and already is building up a decent margin over James Coleman, so it wasn't a particularly lively restart that for Coleman. Molyneux's going with them for now in third. Fourth place, as I said, is still Porter, and then behind Nick Hull under pressure from Nick Bartz. Looks like it says it was 69 on that car, but I can assure you it is 169. Nick Bartz running in 6th position. What about in the 1940s? Well, of course, what this has meant for the 1940s is that Phil Waters has caught Gavin Johnson for the race lead. Remember, I said that Johnson had pulled away off the start, but that 1904 battle is now going to be worth keeping an eye on. I think something in the background, possibly, just starting to come into view. They were pretty close to the restart yesterday. There they are. It's going back out again, actually, isn't it? Gavin Johnson over Phil Waters, but Johnson is the class leader. He is the reigning champion in the 1904 class as well. Well, not really champions, he won last year to Pip Hammond, but the leaders now, what's happened here? Adam Southgate all of a sudden has lost a bit of speed, and James Coleman, who was slipping back at the start of the lap, is already alongside of him as they came onto the pit straight, but doesn't really do anything with it. He hasn't got any superior performance, of course. All of the cars running to a very tightly controlled set of regulations, and so there's no difference in speed between the cars within their individual classes, and so James Coleman, once he pulled out of the slipstream, he couldn't do anything about it. Down into Clark's again they go for the 12th time of asking, 7.25 minutes to go. Coleman actually just set the fastest lap at 57.350 to go fraction quicker, 18/1000 quicker than Southgate had gone. So the curves there, got to be careful doing that though in these Porsches. Porsches notoriously vulnerable to front end damage, particularly radiator damage, and if you hit a curve too hard, apart from anything else, you can pull that front splitter off, and that's got to be worth well over half a second lap around a technical circuit like this, maybe a bit more. So it's important that you look after the cars. Bear in mind as well, we've got another race coming up later on, so they need the cars to be in one piece because it's not that easy to find parts. That looks as though we've had maybe another issue with Carl Rossin. He's weaving the car around as it came out of the Clark corner there. We've seen lots of cars in the gravel there, so it's possible that he'd had a moment. This may be that moment. And well, we've seen that before, haven't we? Locks on the brake, straight onto the gravel trap, and digs his way out. The gravel is now drying, but it seems that the drivers are still able to pick their way through. And he rejoins. He was running third in class. I think he still will be, but he had a lap or two in hand. Darren Constant, right, leaders are lapping Darren Constant in fact, and you can see that the gap had been creeping out slightly. It was up to nearly half a second at the start of the lap. He is now right back down to virtually nothing, just under 6 minutes still to go, and James Coleman won't give in here, but He's tried and tried and tried for 20 minutes yesterday and for nearly 15 minutes today to find a way through, and he just can't get past. It's really difficult to pass here, and of course, because these cars of all of the sport categories we've got here this weekend, they have the most aerodynamic efficiency, and they have the downforce because the braking zones are not that long, which reduces the scope for our braking manoeuvres. Is the back and forth 94 flashing through, and that is Phil Waters now right on the tail of Gavin Johnson, so that gap hasn't happened down. In the 94s, they don't have any of those aerodynamic aids, and so it doesn't create a situation where it's difficult to follow closely. They can run nose to tail. It also means that you have to brake quite a bit earlier. The longer the braking zone is, the more scope there is to try and outbrake with the car, and so that's what Phil Waters in the sort of multicoloured car is looking to do. That car, you can't really see it unless you see it up close, but it's full of thousands of pictures, selfies that people have had put on the car, or just logos or nice panoramic pictures. I have had the chance to see that car up close and personal. It's quite an interesting livery. You can see there the series of photos all over his car, and now we can see that he's challenging for the race lead. Gavin Johnson looking to try and hold on here, but Phil Waters looks the quicker of the two at this stage. Out onto the pit straight they go. Johnson immediately moves over to defend. In fact, he's weaving around trying to break the toe, because you can see what Phil Waters is trying to do here, get the slipstream across the line and maybe launch an attack up the inside into the hairpin. Johnson's having none of it. Waters will have to go right round the outside. This is brave, he's on the marbles, there's no grip, and he runs out of traction and can't make the move stick. This is the thing though here at Knockhill, because it's difficult to pass. If you don't want to let someone through, even if they're quicker than you, it's not easy, but it's not the most difficult circuit in the world to defend the position for. So he's only going to hold on now for another 3 3/4 minutes, and he will take the victory in the class. So level up as far as class wins this weekend are concerned. So it's the Water yesterday, back down the hill, up through the left-hander there at Butchers and into Scotsman. Meanwhile, the Boxsters have all of a sudden got very racy. Kevin Molyneux still in third, but was having to defend there from Nick Porter, who was going to the outside. Behind them, Nick Hull and Nick Bartz, all the Nicks together here, were side by side, and Nick Bartz has been able to get through into 5th place. Nick Hull losing position there. Now, it was towards the end of his race yesterday that it all started to unravel for Nick Hull, when he had a spin down at the hairpin before the rear bumper on the car and got stuck down in the mud as well. And unfortunately, he's losing ground now towards the end of this one. We're also being caught by the number 50 car of Christian Young. That's the red car at the tail end of this group. So this is actually very close stuff now. This is 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th place, separated by just over a second. Nothing to choose between them, and we're heading now in towards the closing stages of this race. 2 3/4 minutes to go. The leaders have already gone through onto their 17th lap. I can tell you there are 3 seconds between those two now, so this is where the action is. And here comes Christian Young up the inside of Nick Hull, across the start-finish line, dropping onto the brakes. He's got the inside line. Oh, he's going to stop the car though. Ooh, I had visions there of him clattering into the side of Nick Bartz, but he just about got away with it. Side by side for 3rd place now as well. This race is really coming alive in the latter stages. This is Kevin Molyneux and Nick Porter. Molyneux, the yellow and black car, will hang on. They'll just go past the back marker as well there, just to add extra complication to the mix. But it looks as though at this stage of the race, Porter may be slightly quicker. Look at the defensive driving that Molyneux is having to do here. He didn't even run anywhere near the edge of the track coming out of Clark's. It just immediately moved over to the middle of the road on the run into the chicane. You would think that you wouldn't really need to defend the chicane, because it's definitely not a traditional overtaking opportunity. Molyneux is really slowing the pace down. His lap times, I'll be interested to see what this lap is. His best lap is a 58.5. His last lap was a 1.5 seconds slower than that, but I reckon this one's going to be even slower, because he's had to really get his elbows out to defend. Through we go on to what I think will be the penultimate lap of the race, and Kevin Molyneux, can he hold on to this podium position? Nick Porter to the outside line, and then keep an eye on that red and white car, because that is Christian Young, and he is the man on the move at the moment. Molyneux a bit sluggish off the hairpin. Porter going to get the overlap? No, not on the run into Clark's. Nothing wrong with the straight line speed of Kevin Molyneux's car. It's possible that he's running into some tyre difficulties, or maybe an issue with the car that he's trying to manage. But you can see he's getting nowhere near the racing line. He's just driving around the inside of the track, and it's causing everyone else behind to start tripping over each other, because Nick Bartz there had a look towards the inside line into the chicane and couldn't get it done. Now in towards the left-hander at Scotsman, And Molyneux's run wide. This might do it this time. I think Nick Porter's going to go through. All side by side into Duffus. This is brave. Will Molyneux hang on around the outside? Yes, he will. Oh no, Nick Porter's sideways. That was always going to happen. It's so hard to run side by side through that corner because, again, you're going through a blind left-hander that is flat out in these cars. If you're trying to keep it pinched tight on the inside of another car, you're always likely to lose control, and that's exactly what happened to Nick Porter, and that is a real shame. Let's hope he's been able to recover from the grass. That has benefited Nick Hull somehow because he's found his way back ahead of Nick Bart's now, and Christian Young, of course, gains lots out of that. He's now into fourth and might still have time to challenge for third. We'll have to wait and see. I think this might be the last lap of the race. Nick Porter is going nowhere. Nick Hull is going wide, and so Nick Bart gets up the inside. There's a bit of damage to the front of Bart's car, but it's not slowing him down. He's up the inside and goes through, but he was sideways. Did he hang on to that? The answer is no. He's gone round. Nick Bart's has gone round and ends up pointing. Well, he's pointing the right way, but he wasn't a few seconds ago. Anyway, the race leaders, I believe, have seen the checkered flag, and I think, yes, the checkered flag may have come out a little bit early there, but Adam Southgate, I can tell you, has won the race. James Coleman is second. There they are. Whilst we were watching all of the drama behind, we missed the leaders taking the checkered flag, but there they are. They have finished the race in the order that they were from the start, really. Southgate from Coleman in the end by 4.1 seconds. Here they are coming across the start-finish line. Thumbs up from the pit wall, and Adam Southgate, a fairly comfortable race winner. Coleman came home second. Kevin Molyneux was able to hang on to third. Christian Young, though, not bad from the back of the grid to finish fourth. Nick Hull was fifth. Nick Bart's was sixth. We're still waiting, I believe, for seventh place finisher, car number 25 to come through. That's Kevin Ludford. And then Gavin Johnson should be next, who held on to win the 19.4 class by 2.8 seconds. So Johnson 8th overall, but wins in the 19.4s. Adam Southgate, though, is your double race winner thus far this weekend here at Knockhill. There is Gavin Johnson, our 19.4 winner, and Phil Waters in second place. So they reverse the order from yesterday. As far as 94 points are concerned, Rick Styrin, David Jones, Hugh Pert, Chris Valentine, Ian Gribben, David Sheeky, the top sixth in points, not here this weekend. So Gavin Johnson, if he can win another race later on, may well move his way through into the championship lead. But we'll follow that with interest later on. Their second race will be at about 20 to 5 in a separate stream at the end of the day. So the cars making their way around. There is Nick Porter, who won't be best pleased with the way that his race ended. I didn't spot whether he made it into the barriers or not, or whether he just got stuck in the grass. He was heading that way, but there was a cloud of tyre smoke and everyone else trying to avoid him, so I'm not sure whether he did make the barriers. If he did, I don't think it was heavy contact, so hopefully he should be able to get the car back out there, no worries at all, for race 3 later on. Adam Southgate, though, pulls up in front of the number 1 board, and that's now 4 wins from the first 4 races this year. Can he make it a quintet of race wins to kickstart his season this afternoon? He's going to stand on the roof. There we go, that's a celebration for you. Adam Southgate, well aware that we're filming him live, I think, today, putting on a good show for us. He shakes hands with James Coleman as well, who just couldn't quite live with Southgate's pace in that race. Adam actually had some brake issues that he ran into towards the end of yesterday's race. I'll be interested to hear from Bryn whether maybe he had any issues the same in this one. Certainly his pace seemed stronger towards the end of race 2 than it did in race 1 yesterday, so maybe they got on top of those brake issues today. Well, he's out of the car, he's got the helmet off, he's caught his breath, I think. Let's go down and have a word with our race winner.
Right, yeah, I am with the race winner. Let's just grab hold of him. Adam, that was incredible. Lights the flag, nice and simple, eh?
Yeah, nice and simple, apart from every time he tried to get down the outside into the hairpin. Not as easy a race as yesterday. I think James really brought it to me, but yeah, really happy to get the win.
And the fastest lap as well.
Fantastic, 4 points. Couldn't be happier.
Yeah, clean sweep's really nice. I mean, you made it look nice and simple. You're a good 4 or 5 seconds ahead at the end there, but there were times, like you say, that it wasn't quite as easy as that. You weren't just having to maintain.
Exactly, yeah. I had some braking issues yesterday, so I was trying to nurse them a little bit, and that meant James was just right on me. So we've got a reverse grid later on this afternoon. That'll be really interesting, see who cuts through the pack the quickest. Yeah, well, you've got to face him, you've got to get ahead of him as well. So, thoughts for the next race? Send it the first corner, basically. No, I think it's a case of trying to get through the pack in kind of a steady way, not make any mistakes. The thing around here, there's not that many places to pass, so it's just about consistency. It's just about not making errors. And when going through the pack, it's really easy to make mistakes. So, yeah, just a clean head for this afternoon.
before you go and get your trophy? Anyone you want to thank in particular?
Absolutely, yeah. My sponsors, Avon Consulting and Intercad, they also do the engineering on the car, and the car was just spot on this morning. It just, yeah, drove fantastically, so thanks to them.
Well done there, Adam, race winner.
Thanks a lot, cheers.
Thank you very much. Brilliant. Adam Southgate victorious in our second race of the weekend for the Toyo Tyres Porsche Championship. Didn't have it easy though, as he said. James Coleman was a thorn in his side all race long, right from the first corner pretty much to the last. They pulled a big gap over the rest of the field in the early stages, as they did yesterday, even trading a little taint on a couple of occasions, but they get on well with each other off track and they'll have respected that battle. For third place, Kevin Molyneux was hanging on fairly comfortably for a train of cars early on. Then came a safety car that punched the whole field back together. On the restart, Southgate made good his escape and was able to pull a decent margin over Coleman to take the eventual race victory. Most of the attention through the middle part of the race was focused on this battle for the race lead in the 924s before it all kicked off for third place overall. Kevin Molyneux, for some reason, running out of pace towards the end, was challenged by Nick Porter, who threw away any chance of a podium with that lazy spin onto the grass coming out of the final turn. Molyneux was doing everything he could to hang on from Christian to hold on to that third place, whilst there was another spin further back for the number 69 car. It was a win for Adam Southgate to round out what's been an entertaining morning of racing here at Knockhill. We'll join you again later on at about 1:30. We hope you'll join us for the afternoon's action.